Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the following program. I am your host, Joe Neerman, aka Good Lawgic. Normally, I like to start with an amusing video. It's something I find personally amusing. And I'll try to open up with that just sort of as like a breakout thing. Just sort of like, people settling in, grabbing their popcorn, encourage people to come for a cute joke in the beginning, so that way people show up here on time. That's a big thing. I like when people show up on time. So I normally will start with that, but I'm breaking from tradition for one night tonight. Well, maintaining the tradition in general, because traditions are a good thing. As I'm sure you've all heard my people sing about that. So the idea here, though, is twofold. First and foremost, we have a lot to jump into right away. So I was like, no, I need to grab every precious minute with you. Also, I have a pretty unique goal for tonight. A little harder than normal, granted. A little harder than normal, but the upside is much higher than normal. Much higher than normal. So the upside is what I'm basically going to do is this. If we reach our goal, which is 20 super chats of 20 or more, which is possible. It's happened. It hasn't happened recently, but it's definitely happened many a time on this show. If we hit that goal of 20 tonight, and we got an action-packed show. It's a type of show which normally should have engagement, according to my poor estimations, just because there's a lot of topics I plan on covering tonight, which feed into discussion and dialogue. So, but if we get that, I will be giving whoever gives the biggest super chat a free admission into the Good Lawgic Fantasy Football League. That estimated at being worth $100. So there you go. So if we hit that goal, I will give whoever gives the highest super chat, I will give them free admission, free of charge. Normally it costs $100 to join, free admission. There you go. So just thought I'd throw that out there. And we'll see if it works. We'll see, if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. And there you go. Anyway, I got a lot of stuff to cover with you tonight. One of the interesting topics I plan on going through with you guys, we're going to be talking about John Bolton, obviously. That's going to be the first topic out of the gate, is I want to talk about the raid and the reaction by the left, explain to you who John Bolton is, because I think probably most of you have heard the name. Some of you may not be very familiar with him. I actually found a video which does a nice little 2-minute breakdown of his. I haven't looked at it yet, but I asked ChatGPT, give me a video that sums up John Bolton's life in 5 minutes. And they gave me one that's 2.5 minutes. And it has, I know you haven't seen it yet, because I was like, how did they find this? It literally has 5 views. It's been up for a day and it's got 5 views. The view's about to go through the roof for this guy. He's got 4,000 subscribers. Whatever. Anyway, we're gonna see that. Hopefully it's informative. Because I was like, I know John Bolton. He deals with strategically guiding our defense, and the first administration got fired. But I don't know if I know enough about him to actually give it to you in a platter. So I'm hoping this guy does a better job than I probably do off the cuff telling you who John Bolton is. But he was raided by the FBI. He used to work for Trump, became a very fierce critic of Trump, and was raided by the FBI. We're going to see the reaction from the left to that. I also plan on sharing with you an incident with a racist Democrat having the most racist sign imaginable. Oh my God! I want to also analyze the Trump rattling the cages of the left, as he is wont to do, in 3 different ways. Number one is that he was talking about sending in National Guard troops to Chicago, and Pritzker had a cow. And when I say had a cow, I mean he basically went over to the side of the road, leaned over, and popped a cow out of his belly. Didn't look any smaller, and then just got up there and started screaming about the tyrant Donald Trump. That's one thing I want to talk about. I also want to assess with you Trump talking about renaming the Department of Defense the Department of War. Yes, the Department of War. And finally, I plan on going over with you his executive order designed towards criminalizing flag burning. And get your feedback on that. That's the show I have lined up for you tonight. I hope you can stick with me throughout throughout tonight's show. It's going to be a fun show tonight. So I hope you all manage to chime in and with your typical, insightful, and entertaining feedback, because the only way this works is if in fact we have good feedback from you guys. So before we get into the John Bolton story, I promised I was going to share with you a perspective as to who John Bolton is. I made it all like 20 seconds into this, and then I was like, oh, I have to start a show. So there you go. Let's check out John Bolton, a history. Who is John Bolton?
Today we will talk about John Bolton. John Robert Bolton was born on November 20th, 1948 in Baltimore, Maryland, to Virginia Clara and fireman Edward Jackson Bolton. Raised in the working-class Yale Heights neighborhood, he earned a scholarship to the McDonough School and became politically active early, notably supporting Barry Goldwater's campaign during high school. He graduated summa cum laude from Yale College in 1970 and continued at Yale Law School, obtaining his...
That's not easy. That's really not easy. He's a smart guy.
His JD in 1974. There, he overlapped with future U.S. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. Bolton began his legal career in private practice at Covington and Burling. His early government service included roles in the Reagan administration, serving first at USAID and then as Assistant Attorney General in the Justice Department.
USAID, that's right. The bastion of the deep state. That's where he got bred. He's known to be a real war hawk.
From 1985 to 1989. During the George H.W. Bush administration, he became Assistant Secretary of State for International Organization Affairs, where he advocated for reforms in U.S. engagement with multilateral institutions, including the United Nations. Under President George W. Bush, Bolton became Undersecretary of State. In August 2005, amid Senate resistance, Bolton was appointed U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations through a recess appointment. He served until late 2006, resigning after confirmation prospects dwindled following Democratic gains in Congress. He then transitioned to the private sector, becoming a distinguished fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, a commentator with Fox News, and advisor to political campaigns, including Mitt Romney's in 2012. In April 2018, President Trump named Bolton National Security Advisor, replacing H.R. McMaster. His tenure was marked by a focus on unilateral U.S. interests in foreign affairs. By September 2019, after growing policy disagreements, particularly over approaches to diplomacy, Bolton resigned from his post. Bolton's memoir, The Room Where It Happened, published in June 2020, offered a detailed account of his time in the Trump administration. Following his White House service, Bolton remained
a scathing account. He was, by most MAGA perspectives, very treacherous and traitorous in the way he attacked Trump.
Prominent foreign policy voice, frequently appearing in media and commentary. John Bolton's career spans legal, diplomatic, and advisory roles across multiple Republican administrations and continues to draw attention through his published works and public presence. I ask you to like the video, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. See you later.
That's a very well, I'll call it neutral. We'll call it neutral perspective on John Bolton. John Bolton is a very divisive figure. I mean that literally and figuratively. Actually, because he's purportedly that you cannot find a engagement in a war that for America that he will not support. He is guns blazing anywhere and everywhere at all times. He seemed to be the author of Nikki Haley's foreign policy. It's like, let's bomb Iran, let's bomb Russia, let's bomb everywhere, let's bomb Hamas. And he's like, let's just bomb everyone, and let's bomb Thailand or China. He would bomb everyone. He's a massive war hawk. He was never a good fit for the Trump administration, and it seems as if he turned on Trump. You know, you can sit there claiming that the reason he turned on Trump was because he wasn't happy with the fact that whatever he wrote in his book, whatever I don't, whatever 9 people read it, which were almost all certainly Democrats or neocons, I guess. And yeah, he didn't, and he's brought on now and became a favorite of the left because he did what a lot of favorites of the left did. He bashed Trump. Same way Liz Cheney ended up doing a circuit tour with Kamala Harris. Same way Adam Kinzinger is propped up as being something more relevant than the guy who sweeps out your local McDonald's in Chicago. And so too John Bolton is basically someone who goes around talking about how terrible Trump is. I think, who was the other one? Sean Spicer. There was, what's that guy? That short guy, Scaramucci, right? If you work for Trump and you turn on him, the left is going to love you. Now, bear in mind, that love is very, very temporary. I mean, they loved Adam Kinzinger then in Illinois, and then as soon as they lost a seat in the 2020 election, they said, "Oh, let's gerrymander Kinzinger out of a job." So for all the love they had for Kinzinger, they basically treated him like the piece of crap that he is, which is only fitting. But and that love is always temporary, because as soon as Trump is no longer relevant, what the hell do they need you for? They don't need you at all. All these never Trumpers from the neocons, the Republicans who see the true evil of Trump, they're losers. They're the biggest losers of them all, ultimately, at the end of the day. I mean, Democrats have just stupid, retarded policies and a desperate need to feel as if they're validated and superior to everyone else, which is why they're motivated to basically say, "Oh, we need to look out for the immigrants. We need to look out for the criminal immigrants. We need to look out for the murderers and what about the poor abuelas? And so what? How dare you deport people who are transporting children across state lines with no ID and no parents? How dare you? They're just innocent Maryland men." And it's just their most ridiculous policies and perspectives on policies. So you've no way to close the border unless we sign a bill that invests hundreds of billions of dollars into it. I mean, just ridiculousness, insane, ridiculous perspectives. But it's all rooted in a common theology. The common theology is we're going to virtue signal and show you how much better people we are, because we'll say things that are designed to sound like we support the underprivileged, even though we're hurting the very people we're purporting to help. But at least we're the good guys, because we're saying nice things, and while advocating for stupid, self-destructive policies for those very people, the very people they try to help. Black community, they crush them. Trans people screw up their lives beyond belief. Every group that they try to virtue signal help, they make worse. They make their lives worse than if these Democrats had never been born. Much, much worse. Much worse. Like infinitely worse. But their whole dedication, it's a service of self. It's a masturbatory method of trying to say, see, I'm really a good person. I'm really the good guy. And you're not as good a person as I am, because I'm going to stand here telling you how I think that putting trans I'm going to call a trans woman a woman, and then throw that trans woman in a boxing ring with someone who's got much less body mass and have them beat the smithereens out of them because yay, go women. Like that's just the retarded policies. So, and we can go through one after another and see just how transparently stupid they are. And from time to time, I think I've done enough here on this particular element of it. But the point that I'm getting at here is, so that's the Democrats. They're all going to continually branch together. These never Trumpers, the Lincoln Project, children lovers, the Rick Wilsons of the world, the Adam Kinzingers, the Liz Cheneys, they are now in vogue, or have been in vogue, because they're in a position to chastise from a purported same side, to chastise Donald Trump. Well, what happens in 2029 when Donald Trump isn't here in political limelight anymore? What role does Rick Wilson have? Is it going to be Republicans against Vance? Is that what it's going to be? Is that what it's going to be? Maybe make a whole career out of, like, I'm just like a Republican who hates everything that the Republican Party stands for. I'm sure that's a living. I don't know. I guess that's something. Who knows? Anyway, most saddest, pathetic loser. You're just such a loser if that's what your whole shtick is that I'm just gonna hate on this. Although I guess it makes them difficult to distinguish from the left. But let's get into Trump. Let's get into Bolton. Now that we have a little bit of a background perspective about who John Bolton is, we're all on the same page and saying, okay, now we know what Bolton is all about. Let's break down what happened to Mr. Bolton, because he had a rough go of it this weekend. He had a rough go indeed this weekend.
We do want to share this video with you. This is some scene video from Friday as the FBI raided the home and office of former National Security Advisor John Bolton. The reason behind the raids was reportedly linked to a probe of allegations that Bolton sent classified documents to his family from a private email server while working at the White House. That is according to the New York Post. The Post cited a Trump administration official who said FBI Director Kash Patel ordered the raid. The outlet also reported that yet
Kash
to be
Patel.
unsealed
That's
search
right.
warrants reference a controversy over Bolton's memoir to establish a pattern of behavior. However, a senior U.S. official told the Post the probe was a, quote, clean break from the investigation regarding Bolton's book. Bolton, who served in Trump's first administration, has not been arrested or taken into custody. The president revoked his security clearance and Secret Service detail back in January. Now, during Trump's first administration, a probe into classified documents was launched, but later shut down by the Biden administration.
Shut down because he basically is USAID. That's what this guy is. He converted USAID into what we know it is today. He also has his own super PAC that's very interesting run like USAID. This guy is all about the dark money. He is Mr. Deep State. He is everything about USAID, all the funding in the deep state. They kept going back to USAID, and this guy, this is one of the key players in USAID. You're correct, Allegan News.
The Justice Department argued that Bolton's 2020 memoir, The Room Where It Happened, contained classified material and attempted to block it from being published. To speak more on this, I do want to bring in Miguel Clark, who is a former FBI special agent. And Miguel, we appreciate you joining us here on Live Now from Fox.
Well, it's morning here, so good morning to you.
We're across all of the time zones, so depending on where you are, it is morning.
Indeed.
I did want to start with the actual process of obtaining a search warrant for a raid such as the one that we saw the FBI do at John Bolton.
We'll stop with that because we're going to hear all about the process. We're going to hear all about the process because the Democrats are spinning in circles now, chastising Trump because he's going after his political enemies. Because the one thing they are correct about is they smell the writing on the wall. They don't really care about John Bolton. Nobody cares about John Bolton's wife, mother, and kids probably don't really care about John Bolton. He's a very unlovable individual, just based on everything you hear him say. He's not a likable person, and he's a war hawk. So it's not like anyone is just like, unless they're, Raytheon, they're not, no one's a big John Bolton fan, but Democrats are smelling that this is the start of something that they do not want to see. They don't want to see all of a sudden now Kash Patel starting to follow through on putting away and investigating and potentially charging various individuals associated with the deep state. Yes, we do know the process. We do. But so that's why I credit you all with knowing the process for how you can get a raid on someone's house, how the FBI can get a search warrant. But it's interesting to see some of the people from the left when they're talking about today the whole process, and looking at this John Bolton situation, what a completely different tune they were singing when they were talking about the whole situation with the raid on Mar-a-Lago, because all of them, when it came to the raid on Mar-a-Lago, they're like, hey, everything's cool here. Why are people having a problem with this? I don't understand. It's, this is part of the process. This is what you do. This is what you do indeed. In fact, we can go to this guy right here. Here's someone who looks familiar.
Any given moment. But I don't think he cared about the classification system. I don't think he appreciated the sensitivity of this information, and he didn't appreciate the sensitivity of how it was often acquired, the so-called sources and methods. So this had been briefed to him before I arrived. It was repeated frequently. I think it simply had no impact on him whatever.
There's a couple of different ways that people think about this, and people who are not friendly to the president who think about what's happened here. And one of them is, Donald Trump, master thief, criminal, running some kind of elaborate conspiracy to bring things out of the White House and keep them secret for potentially for political or financial gain. There are other people who his attitude is Trump is chaotic. He's careless. He's not that smart. He took these things almost by mistake, and now he's basically stamping his feet and saying they're mine. I don't want to give them up.
He's just an idiot.
Give me a sense of where you think the truth lies with respect to Trump's intelligence, carelessness, and the degree to which he might have brought motive to bear on taking these documents out of the White House and keeping them for this long at Mar-a-Lago.
Well, it's very hard to speculate on motive other than that he liked cool things. He saw things so he wanted to take them, and he was pretty much able to take them, and not just on classified information matters, on all kinds of things that crossed his desk. Some days he liked to eat a lot of French fries. Some days he took classified documents. He wanted them. Why did he want them? Because he could get them.
Jackass. What a complete and total I told you, not likable. Not very likable. But that really, to be fair, was not the clip I really wanted to pull up for you, because I wanted to get for you I wanted to get for you various Democrat strategists and folks talking about how they felt about the Mar-a-Lago raid, and how their tune has changed dramatically with the raid on John Bolton.
Can't overemphasize to you, John, how big of a deal this would have been within the Department of Justice and the FBI. This is not, a couple of agents showing up at some judge's door in the middle of the night to get an emergency warrant. This is something that would have been planned out and reevaluated and legally examined from every possible angle by the entirety of the leadership structure of both organizations. So let's remember that to get a search warrant in any case, whether it's you or I or the former president, you have to go before a federal judge and convince that judge that there is probable cause to believe both that a federal crime has been committed and that evidence of that crime is contained within the space you have described in your warrant request.
So this all has to be above board. You got to pass the judge. You have to convince him that there's probable cause and that there's evidence to be found there. That's how it worked. That's how we know the raid of Mar-a-Lago had to be totally legit.
So we have, in this situation, a federal judge who made that determination.
Sitting next to Jackass Norm Eisen. We're gonna see from Norm Eisen also.
Giving the agents authority to enter that premises and search every part of the premises that might contain the items that are specifically described in the warrant.
I have absolutely no doubt that Mr. Bolton.
So that was him talking about, that was Andrew McCabe talking about the raid of Mar-a-Lago. Here he is talking about the John Bolton raid.
Bolton will have very good counsel, and they will attack this in a full-throated and complete way, as they should, right? So we know that Mr. Bolton has said critical things about the president. That's not illegal. That's not a crime. That's pretty squarely within your First Amendment right in this country. And in fact, you shouldn't be. You're not supposed to be. The Department of Justice and the FBI have all kinds of policies absolutely prohibiting investigating people for the exercise of their First Amendment rights. And so if that's what's going on here, and there's all kinds of reasons to believe that that might be the true motivation. We know that the president is embarked on a pretty extensive effort to.
Now we're looking at the motivation of the DOJ. Don't look at the motivation of DOJ before. There we focus on how the process is so completely uncorruptible when it comes to the raid on Mar-a-Lago. Look, he went through the process. Look at this extensive process. You have to establish probable cause, and you have to convince a judge. This would be scrutinized. Oh, scrutinized. But now, all of a sudden, John Bolton, oh yeah, Trump's Gestapo just marched on in there. Where's the process here? Where's the process?
Go after his perceived enemies. To
he said he was running on
revenge
retribution.
tours.
Yeah.
No, he did not. He said his retribution would be success, and it has been.
That's right. I am your retribution. That's what he told his supporters. So there's all kinds of reasons, I think, to look at this with a jaundiced eye and to be aware of the fact that there is more than.
This one has the jaundiced eye. The raid on Mar-a-Lago, that has to be above board because, hey, they got a warrant. They got a warrant. That's a scrutinized warrant. Oh, yeah. No jaundicing there. There's no pink eye there. There's no hanging eyelid there. No, that's clear vision. Clear vision. This one deserves a jaundiced eye.
Just the probable cause articulated in this search warrant. There is this very fraught relationship between the two, and the president's history of going after people using the levers of power that he has access to.
What's his history? Where's that history? Where's that history, Andrew?
Particularly the Department of Justice, to go after people he doesn't like.
When did that happen? Where's his history of that? Name one person who's been charged by, who's part of his political enemies. Because I don't remember seeing that. That's a new one on me. But here's another notorious individual who's somehow speaking a very different language when he's talking about the raid on Mar-a-Lago versus talking about the John Bolton raid. Let's give it to us, Jamie Ratskin.
Look, the wisdom of the Constitution's founders is vindicated by all of these events that I'm.
Oh, the wisdom of our founders. Oh, look at them waxing poetic and so wonderfully about the wisdom of our fathers. When it comes, if there's a mob of lunatics who are tearing down statues of our founding fathers, he's all
looking at from.
But when it comes to supporting their wisdom in establishing the Constitution and procedure of due process, that we have to hail and extol their infinite wisdom. Now, I personally agree with extolling their wisdom, but their wisdom also doesn't say. It also says he's innocent until he's proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, and you're all treating him like he was a convicted felon from the moment Jack Smith showed up on your freaking TV screens.
Afar, because all of the search warrant process had to go through a neutral, independent magistrate. There had to be probable cause. The things being searched had to be stated with sufficient particularity. And
it's very, very difficult. You want to get a search warrant. It's so hard. You have to go before a magistrate. You have to lay out probable cause. You have to spell out with specific particularity. Oh my gosh. It's a miracle how there's ever a raid on any house ever, because it's just leaps and hurdles.
And all of it was tied to specific crimes and offenses. And I think the onslaught of attacks on the Department of Justice was outrageous and wholly unjustified. And, I think we're watching the real rule of law unfold here.
The real rule of law unfold.
I've thought for a very long time that Mar-a-Lago was a very porous environment from a national security perspective. And
when were you in Mar-a-Lago, Jamie? When did you visit Mar-a-Lago? What do you know about the security system in Mar-a-Lago? Were you at a party in Mar-a-Lago? When were you there? When I've always thought, oh yeah, no. It's funny because I always thought that the security of Mar-a-Lago was top grade. I've never been there either, but I just assumed he knows it to be porous. How would you know anything about the security there?
We've already seen episodes of foreign agents and foreign assets crawling around in the Mar-a-Lago environment. Yes.
She's like nodding her head. Yes. Who are the foreign agents who are crawling around Mar-a-Lago? What are they? What are they? Is he is he have terrorist gardeners? Who are the foreign agents? What is he, like a Swedish chef? Who are these foreign agents who are crawling all over Mar-a-Lago? I give me a name. I want to know a name of one foreign agent that she's like, oh yeah, obviously. Hello, it's Mar-a-Lago. It's pretty much a resort spa for terrorists. Everyone knows this. That's why he had it registered as a spa, and Judge Engoron focused on that whole thing. He had it registered as a country club, clearly because he wanted to make sure that he would have a warm, open invitation to all the foreign terrorists that he wanted to come welcome into Mar-a-Lago. What are you talking about? And on CNN, which they try to pretend, oh yeah, no, we're very, very about the facts. She's yeah. Not one question like, who's the guy or gal? Who? Just tell us. We have a right to know. We have a right to know. Anyway,
where the principal currency of admission and power is just money, but not necessarily any loyalty or patriotism to the American people. Seems
okay. So that was his take on Mar-a-Lago. Great process, the magistrate, the particularity. It's like impossible. So if he managed to get through that, it must be a legitimate raid. It must be everything here is completely above board. The neutral magistrate, the particularity. Did I mention the neutral magistrate and probable cause? Did I mention that? Because there is. You got to get all of that. Let's focus now on the raid in John Bolton's house.
To confirm Bolton's own prediction that if Donald Trump got back into office, his administration would be consumed with vengeance and retribution against his perceived political enemies. And it seems as if perhaps the president was not pleased with what Bolton was saying during the course of the big summit with Vladimir Putin here in the United States.
How do you know he even pays attention to Bolton? What would make you think that he even knew that the DOJ was going to do this? Trump is upset. He's like, I can't believe that John Bolton threw out that tweet. Go raid his house. It's like the things that a typical CNN viewer would believe is just astonishing. Oh yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, he saw that John Bolton tweet, and he's like, cash. You get your freaking FBI agents in there right now. Let's go. All the other lunacy that John Bolton has spouted about Trump in the past, that wasn't what did it. It was those tweets about Putin and the summit. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. Who the hell knows? Do you have any idea what John Bolton said? Who's paying attention to John Bolton? I guess CNN is.
In Alaska, and he was reminding everybody that Vladimir Putin had one goal, which was to capture Ukraine and reabsorb it into the newly reconstituted Russian Empire. So obviously that got on Donald Trump's nerves, and I think we can see the result of it here.
Obviously. Well, you don't have to be worried about that because he had to get past a neutral magistrate. That was a big deal. And they had to specify the crime and the with particularity what type of evidence they anticipated finding there. So we can rest assured that everything here was above board. Look, do I know anything about whether or not John Bolton has committed any crimes? No, I have no idea. I mean, they say that he's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and people struggle to figure out how that happened. Is he selling Is he selling classified information to foreign agents? I have no idea. Do you know? You don't know. But, apparently there's enough reason to suspect it to be true that a neutral magistrate judge signed off on it. So I gotta think to myself, maybe there's some smoke here. Maybe it's not. Is it possible that the DOJ is trying to go after his political enemies? Yeah, it's possible. But I wouldn't assume that. And the reason I wouldn't assume that is because it's never happened before. Not once. Not once. Even now, even with this raid, he still hasn't been charged. Nothing. He's not under arrest. He could flee the country now. Nothing's stopping him. He's free to come and go wherever he likes. So, yeah, I don't know why it is that people think that he goes after his political enemies. There's nothing to indicate that. Let me catch up on some chats here. I got a lot more on John Bolton before I close this story out, but chats are starting to build. So, it says super chat no goal. Super chat. Oh, it was a super chat when there was no goal, right? We put that before I put my super chat up. A Maryland judge signed off on the search warrant. Not exactly a friendly court to Trump. This is true. This is true. He's an emaciated walrus. He does look a little bit like a walrus. It's that mustache of his. He does look like. I see where you're going there, Felzu. A mustache that started more wars than Germany's leader in the 1930s. Probably. Jim tells you, coming in with the 20. Sorry about the late email tonight. I got home really late. I'm going live around midnight, so redirecting me to my brother would be extra kosher. I am happy to do that. Let me do that now before I forget. Let me do that now. Well, I am happy to do that. Look at that. That's my voice echoing my brain. Let me just find Jim Tells You, because if I don't put it in here now, it's not going to happen. Jim Tells You. Okay. There we go. Just taking care of that redirect real fast. And customization. And that's done. All right. Thank you, brother. This is the Maryland court that gave us Maryland Man and many other federal cases more than any other district against Trump CEO. Yeah. And I'm going to be talking about his newest EO soon, because I think it's an interesting thing. The founders are slave-holding racists when conservatives argue the Constitution, but a sacred document full of due process and detailed analysis for these commies. They're such snakes. They're such snakes because the very people they'll attack, they'll extol when needed. It's the snakiest perspective about America. That's the Democrat Party in general. They are the snakiest party imaginable, because this is so spot on, and it's what I was getting at. It's like, they're screaming racist. They go nuts like lunatics over like pretty much any basis to show how woke they are. They're all too excited to basically tell you what terrible person Thomas Jefferson is, and take his statute out of Gracie Mansion. Because he owned slaves. Tell you what a terrible person George Washington is. Heck, they were even ripping down Columbus. Well, obviously Columbus and Abraham Lincoln. They would rip down because he's a white leader. They're lunatics. So, but as soon as they can sit there trying to, call back to the wisdom of founding fathers and how we follow due process here, everything here is above board, and shut up, just shut up, stupid snakes. So, I got no patience for them. Kimmy, I met my Give Send Go goal last night. One person donated the remaining amount. Massive blessing. That is so awesome. I am so happy. I don't know who your angel was, but God bless that individual. Thank you all for your support, prayers, and sharing. Now to heal completely. Thanks, Joe. Amen. Completely and rapidly. Wish you nothing but a complete and rapid recovery. As those who were unaware, that Kimmy has basically been kicking the hell out of cancer's ass, and she's a freaking warrior. We love her. So God bless you. The looks of concern from those CNN talking heads rival those from She of the Concern Face, Peggy Noonan. Oh, that was a little over my head, but good to see you, Breck. So he had a meeting with Russia. His white side. Today is the day we raid John Bolton. He was pulling so much out of that rear end that you can still smell. It's the stupidest thing. Obviously, he was motivated by his deep disgust for what John Bolton was saying about the Russia-Ukraine negotiations. It's like, what? What are you talking about, bro? This was great. Also, I mentioned Norm Eisen when he was up in that video when we're looking at Andrew McCabe. He was sitting there nodding like a doofus next to him. Here's Norm Eisen after the raid. Today's raid is an obvious act of intimidation. Another example of the double standards this president is applying is he puts himself and his cronies above the law and weaponizes it against his perceived enemies. Our statement on the Bolton raid. Yeah, this is what he wrote, Norm Eisen. Okay, look at this. Data Republican put in, hello, Mr. Eisen. I have to say, your statement in support of John Bolton is one of the most audacious things I've ever read, and I read your playbook on color revolutions. You yourself filed a DOJ complaint urging a criminal investigation into Bolton's super PAC. You argued that Bolton should never again hold a security clearance or a White House position, receipts attached. And on top of that, you called for Trump to be prosecuted for mishandling classified documents. Yet today, you're burnishing Bolton's reputation as if none of that history exists. The only reason to make a move this brazen is fear. Fear of real accountability. Fear that if scrutiny of classified material handling is applied evenly to Bolton, to Trump, to anyone, it undermines the partisan lawfare you've built your career around. This has nothing to do with democracy and everything about defending a political club where rules are bent for allies and weaponized against opponents. And your sudden embrace of Bolton, a man you once said was unfit to handle national secrets, proves the point better than anything I could add. Lawyer up, you might be next. So he got, on his tweets, 269 likes. That's how many likes he got. 933 comments. That's called being ratioed. When you should be having like 20 times as many likes as you have comments. So 269 likes, you should be having like 20 comments maximum. 10 to 20 comments is what he should have. 900 comments. That's not good. This is all going to be reposts are going to be quote tweets of people bashing him. You know this because, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go through them. But look, he's got 269 likes. This response to him, 16,000 likes. Oh my God! Oh my God! He looks like a canned version of a human. Like if when aliens sell humans in a can and they come out of the can and you just first pull it out of the can, I imagine this is what they look like. So I'm just tell me as soon as I say it, I think you can't help but see it, right? There's something about his head, his face, everything that he just looks like a canned human being. I said it. I said it. Anyway. So. Constitutional conservative. I want to go through a couple of other things that I saved on this particular story for you. A week with no DC murders. John Bolton's house was raided. Canada removes retaliatory tariffs. That's right. That's right. Canada said, we're done with the retaliatory tariffs. It's not really working so well. Please treat us nicely on the tariffs. Remember all the big talk from hey, we're gonna be tariffing you right back, eh? Stock market hit another record high. This is Democrats today. He just keeps winning. The man just keeps winning. Fox Greg Gutfield on Bolton FBI raid. Let's see. I saved it, which means it's probably good. So let's, because I was pretty select on this story.
Some people say it's retribution. I say, who cares? You know, don't lecture me on timing of lawfare. Don't lecture me on politically motivated, investigations. You guys invented this stuff. You love doing it to Trump because you didn't think it through. You were so confident that Trump was toast that you could rattle off free punch after free punch after free punch without any fear of reprisal. So yeah, is it retribution? I don't know. But when you think about the constant lawfare, the gerrymandering, the Dems never expect it to happen to them. They're like home invaders who didn't expect a well-armed occupant when they showed up. And Trump is well-armed. This is kind of an ongoing masterclass for the Republican Party, the new Republican Party. To quote Greasy Gav, how to fight fire with fire. The conservative movement, which I loved for the longest time, they were kind of happy to fritter away their influence and power on the notion that they were always above returning fire. Oh, I write for National Review. This is disgusting. Let's write a 4,000-word piece on judicial reform. And then they don't do anything. They go back and smoke their cigar. They always felt it was beneath them to get in the ring and hit back. So it's one of the presents that Trump gave the Republicans that they desperately needed were balls the size of Jupiter.
And so now I'm curious. I want to hear your take. I'm going to take from you. Do you think that this is retribution, or that it's a genuine interest in justice? That's my question for you. Is this retribution, or is this about justice? Start my poll. Is this... is the raid on Bolton. So someone might walk in late and wonder. I'm not even sure what I would vote in this poll. That's how on the fence I am. So that's what I'm going to have. We'll see retribution. Excuse me. And a lot of both. There's your poll. And I'll be checking the ghetto also. Is the raid on Bolton's house about justice or retribution? So mostly justice, mostly retribution, no idea, or a lot of both. Doc No says long overdue. That's what it is. Allegan, I'm gonna ring a bell for you over here. I can come back to this. We'll come back to that when I get to the flag burning thing. So this way I can like weigh in on it properly when I come back to that story. We'll cover that next, though, the flag burning. Okay, after I'm done with the John Bolton story. C3 putting out there, in less than 24 hours, President Trump has Democrats defending carjackers and John Bolton. Look at this idiot. Dear real Donald Trump, I've been carjacked in Chicago with my arm broken. I still don't want you or your troops here. By the way, there are no red hats here. Look at this lunatic. She looks like she grabbed her own arm. I don't know. Maybe she did. Maybe she didn't. Unbelievable. They're so twisted. They're so twisted and out of shape. To all Democrats crying about the Bolton raid, remember, it's you who chose this path. You guys remember this picture? Yeah, look at this. Oh, yeah. I look at this as a vote that it is retribution. I really don't think it is retribution. I just don't think he would start with Bolton. Maybe he would. I don't think he would. This I haven't checked out yet, but I want to see this. Holy smokes. CIA Director John Ratcliffe actually gave Kash Patel access to the intel that was used as the basis to get the warrant for the raid on Bolton today. It's happening. Justice is on its way. Well, we can hope.
Actually have an exclusive report on all of this that I haven't even posted on Twitter yet. Came in just as I was coming in to get ready for the hit here. So this is what I'm getting. This is going to be a War Room exclusive here from Human Events. That CIA Director John Ratcliffe provided Kash Patel access to U.S. intelligence that served as the basis for the warrant to raid Bolton's house. So this is basically what we were thinking about. And this is an individual familiar is telling me this. They're saying Bolton disingenuously attacked Trump for mishandling classified information. It will go down as one of the most audacious and ironic acts of malice in political history. Bolton should have been throwing stones in his now raided glass house. And this was something, I think, Steve, you and I talked about it when John Bolton's book came out, that he was known for these yellow legal pads, that he would take notes during every single meeting that was going on when he was the national security advisor. And there were a lot of questions as to what exactly was the handling of those notes. Did those yellow legal pads make it home to him? And because there was a lot of information that was in there that also ended up in his book, which was publicized. And by the way, part of which was leaked to the New York Times, even went back to my own reporting on this, part of which was leaked to the New York Times before it even came out in publication. So there's a lot of questions about who leaked it in the first place. Was it leaked during that period where they're supposed to be scrubbing it for classified? And these yellow legal pads, what information did he take? Because classified information, here's a great example. So even if you don't have documents, if the information that you have written down on your documents is classified and you take your document home, that's still taking classified information out of a classified area. Yep. That's still taking it out of the SCIF. So if you're in a position like the Oval, if you're in the Situation Room, et cetera, you can't just take that home. And in fact, the information in your mind is still also classified. That's why you have a lifetime NDA. That's just the nature of classified information. So I know there's a lot of people who focus on documents. I'm sure there's going to be documents that we're talking about here, but this is very clear. It's information that is classified, not a piece of paper.
Interesting.
Give me that from the.
And it's a great point, by the way, but Brian, remember the red hat gang. It's a really interesting point that he's making, which is obviously true, and it's something that we tend to overlook. It is the key is the information, not not the piece of paper with the information. So if you're just recreating it on your own yellow legal pad, you're creating essentially a classified document. So, and once you create, that becomes a classified document, you have to make sure it's safeguarded. That's the logical way of looking at classified information. Otherwise, what's the point to having information be classified? Because if it's just, there's nothing special about the piece of paper that it's printed on. It's the information itself.
CIA Director Ratcliffe again. Can you do that one more time? It's pretty amazing.
John Ratcliffe provided FBI Director Kash Patel access to U.S. intelligence that served as the basis for the warrant to raid Bolton's house. So these are documents, some kind of information that the CIA held that they were probably using that as a check to go into this warrant to say, these are the things you're looking for, that they provided, and this is going towards the probable cause for the raid that took place this morning. I believe is still ongoing.
Well, there you go. There you go. And here's Scott Jennings weighing in, saying, if you find yourself freaking out about the FBI John Bolton raid, I'd like to offer you guidance John Bolton offered after the raid in Mar-a-Lago.
Just calm down, whether you're...
Scott, I mean, what do you see here?
Well, I'm reminded of something that I heard someone say after the Mar-a-Lago raid, and the statement was everybody ought to just calm down, whether you're pro-Trump or anti-Trump, and let the process work its way through. That was said by John Bolton himself after the Mar-a-Lago raid on Trump. Look, I try not to engage too much in conjecture on these things. All we really know is what Caitlin just told us, that this is related to an investigation regarding information he put in his book. We know that they're searching for things, and that's it. That's what we know. And so Ambassador Bolton's previous views on this were that processes should be allowed to work their way through. I assume this one will work its way through. And if he has not disclosed any classified information, that will be fine and good. And we'll talk about that. And if he has, I'm sure we'll talk about it as well.
Scott, I mean, what do you see here?
Well,
and it is way too early to sort of say, you know, we know way too little to properly weigh in as to whether or not he's guilty or innocent of anything, or how nefarious his activity was. So, you know, I think that's a wise take in general. Kaneko the Great said, John Bolton, Dick Cheney convinced George Bush to blow up the Middle East. We got nothing out of it except a lot of death. Let's listen to Trump on this.
Why did you remove John Bolton's security clearance, sir?
Because I think that was enough time. It's we take a job. You take a job. You want to do a job. We're not going to have security on people for the rest of their lives. Why should we? I thought he was a very dumb person, but I used him well, because every time people saw me come into a meeting with John Bolton standing behind me, they thought that he'd attack them because he was a warmonger. He's the one that got us involved, along with Cheney and a couple of others, convinced Bush, which was a terrible decision, to blow up the Middle East. You know, we blew up the Middle East and we left. Then we got nothing out of it except a lot of death. We killed a lot of people. And John Bolton was, one of those guys, a stupid guy. But no, you can't have that for life. You shouldn't expect it for life.
Why did you remove John Bolton's security clearance?
So, does that mean that he's going for retribution? Is that what that means? I don't know. Here's another clip of President Trump talking about Bolton.
When I hired him, he served a good purpose, because, as you know, he was one of the people that forced Bush to do the ridiculous bombings in the Middle East. Bolton, he wants to always kill people, and
I just noticed his hat. Oh my god! Oh my god! I love that hat. I love him wearing the hat. That is great. That is so good.
very bad at what he does, but he worked out great for me, because every time he doesn't talk, he's like a very quiet person, except on television. If he could say something bad about Trump, he'll always do that. But he really doesn't talk. He's quiet. And I'd walk into a room with him with a foreign country, and the foreign country would give me everything, because they said, "Oh no, they're going to get blown up because John Bolton's there." He's not a smart guy, but he could be a very unpatriotic guy. I mean, we're going to find out. I know nothing about it. I just saw it this morning. They did a raid.
Do you expect the DOJ to brief people?
You can actually understand how he would sort of think that that's. People might think he's just saying it. I think it's really true. I think he feels like if he comes in with someone who's known to be a lunatic, that's the bad cop right there. I'm walking in with the bad cop. They all know he's the bad cop. You know, let me tell you something, okay? If you haven't seen Reservoir Dogs, okay? Early classic from Quentin Tarantino. If you haven't seen Reservoir Dogs, first and foremost, if you don't mind a little potty mouth, because, well, frankly, there's a lot of potty mouth in there. But if you can get past that, I highly recommend checking out Reservoir Dogs. And there's a character in there played by a guy who died recently. What's his name? Madsen. Michael Madsen, I think, is the actor's name. Great actor, although he became typecast at a certain point as just being the lunatic bad guy. The lunatic bad guy. The reason I bring it up, in that movie, there's a scene there, spoiler alert, where he actually slices off a guy's ear while dancing to Stuck in the Middle with You. Anyhow, bottom line, If you walk into a room and Michael Madsen's next to you, you're like, look, I'm trying to work with you reasonably. If I can't work something out with you, I got Mr. Blue over here. You want to talk to me? You want to deal with Mr. Blue? You're going to be like, okay, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? And that's basically what John Bolton was for Trump. He was Mr. Blue. He probably came with his own little, boom box there, which was playing Stuck in the Middle with You, and would dance around to it. I could picture these meetings for you. I could describe it for you very well. He's going in there to meet with, Justin Trudeau in his first one during Trump's first term. He's like, we got to rework this whole NAFTA thing here. You could talk to me. I got John Bolton over here. You want to talk to John, or this is the plan I have in mind. John has his own ideas. We can explore that if things don't work out here between you and me. And John Bolton's John Bolton's just in there, clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Just like, oh my God, he's even wielding the freaking razor blade. That's pure Trump right there. That's pure Trump. That's pure Trump right there. Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right.
Yeah, they'll brief me probably today sometime. I don't want. I tell Pam and I tell the group. I don't want to know, but just you have to do what you have to do. I don't want to know about it. It's not necessary. I could know about it. I could be the one starting it. I'm actually the chief law enforcement officer. But I feel that it's better this way.
It is super violent. It's Quentin Tarantino. It's going to be super violent, right? I mean, that's kind of his thing. It's kind of his thing. I think he walks onto a set with a bucket of pig blood and just starts throwing it everywhere. I mean, serious. Name a Quentin Tarantino movie that wasn't that didn't have gallons of blood in it. I think my favorite. A lot of people's favorite is Pulp Fiction, but I think my favorite is, and Pulp Fiction is probably the least bloody one out of all of them. Actually, I think Hateful Eight is my favorite one. But I'm not a big fan of Quentin Tarantino, the person, but his movies are rock solid. Rock solid. I got another couple here for you. Actually, just one. This is the last one here. Here's Dan Bongino. I think this is Dan Bongino in general talking about how the FBI is very serious about cracking down on things. I guess he still works there.
Let me ask you about, are you going to be looking into, Cash and Pam, any potential collusion between the DOJ, Letitia James, the novel legal theory of Alvin Bragg, or Nathan Wade or Fonnie Willis and the DOJ? Is that something? Has anything come up? Is there any way to determine whether or not evidence was destroyed in any of these cases?
Well, there's always a way to determine that. I don't want to comment on that specific case right now for a reason. I don't want to get ahead of the Department of Justice on that. But I want to say this, the FBI obviously has the public corruption portfolio. And yes, if you are a corrupt politician out there, if you are engaged in behavior, you know what you're doing, we're going to find you. I promise. No one is going to get off. The days of selecting and putting your, partisan bias on and taking care of your friends, those days are over. You know what, Sean? I don't have any friends. I don't want any friends. Well, maybe outside of you and a couple of, I don't care. I didn't come here for the money. I didn't come here to make, I know.
No, you didn't go there for the money. I can tell people that.
No, I didn't come here to make friends. I don't give a damn about friends. I don't have any friends. I don't want any friends. I got my wife, I got you, and I got a small crew of people. So I don't need any friends. If
you want a friend in DC, get a dog.
We're coming for you.
That'll help.
Yeah, exactly. You want a friend in DC, right? Go get a Labradoodle like I have, because there are no friends in DC. You've been doing this, 30 years? There are no friends here.
Well, I think there are a lot of friends, but they're all snakes ultimately. They're all snakes ultimately. Jackie Brown. I don't know if I even saw Jackie Brown. I don't even know if I even saw Jackie Brown. I think that's the one movie I never saw. Kimmy says both the corrupt, arrogant midwits put the biggest bullseye on their own backs. Time to expose their corruption. Happy coincidence. Okay. Okay. Could be. Could be. I mean, it could be that the truth is, I think what Kimmy's getting at here is that ultimately these people who are his political enemies. Oh no! Don't do that. What is that? I got something that's just popped on me. That's not good. Wow. That's horrifying. You don't hear it. I know. I hear it. I pulled it out. This is not good. the face you make when all of a sudden there's just like a thing that just starts playing on you. This is so not good. So, in case you're wondering what's happening right now, if you just tuned in, so I basically have like a lot of tabs that are open here that I basically run through during the course of the show. They call that prep work. And for one reason or another, one of them is sounding off on me. Basically, all right, it just stopped. Nope. All right. This is a nightmare. Because I can't share a link with you until I clear this thing out. Because all you're gonna hear basically is you're gonna hear that the whole time. Now I can remove that by having no screen shared with you, so you don't hear it now, but it's still playing for me. Found it. It was Jim Tells You. That's what it was. Oh, God. Jim. I had to go over to his page when I had him up there. God, that was terrible. That was terrible. Jim. It's like I don't even recognize the music here. All right. And we're back. Now I gotta sort of sort everything out again because I got all confused when I was trying to find the right tab. I think it just went wonky on me. I wanted to find, I promised I was going to go next over to, this is what I wanted. Okay, this is the next topic I wanted to cover. All right, I found that. NSA has all the receipts. What is it good for? It's good for locking him up if he's basically sold secrets to our adversaries. It's not a matter we're trying to recover the classified documents. We're trying to secure it to make sure it doesn't fall into the wrong hands and potentially prosecute him for being negligent in the way he handled those documents and potentially financially benefiting from his use of that mishandling of classified documents. So that's what it would be good for. Those are all significant things. Those are all significant things. All right. And I also want to check where was my poll at before I move on to the next thing, because where was my... All right. I had a poll. Is the raid on Bolton's house about justice or retribution? Wow. 42% of you think mostly justice. 3% say retribution. 8% say no way to know. And 46% saying a lot of both. So that's a lot. A lot of you giving the benefit of the doubt here. That's a total of 88% thinking it's at least a lot of justice, if not mostly justice. 8% saying you don't know, and only 3% thinking it's retribution. Interesting. All right. I didn't expect the poll to be that heavily giving him the benefit of the doubt, but I guess he's earned it. All right, the next topic I want to talk about here, and it's really pushed along by Allegan News and his generous super chat that he sent in here, is this topic right here. I got to add the screen back in.
Lastly, sir, this is an executive order on flag burning. It charges your attorney general.
Would you listen to this? This is what happened. Flag burning. All over the country, they're burning flags. All over the world, they burn the American flag. And as you know, through a very sad court, I guess it was a 5-4 decision, they called it freedom of speech. But there's another reason, which is perhaps much more important. It's called death. Because what happens when you burn a flag is the area goes crazy. If you have hundreds of people, they go crazy. You can do other things. You can burn this piece of paper. You can, but when you burn the American flag, it incites riots at levels that we've never seen before. People go crazy. In a way, both ways. There are some that are going crazy for doing it. There are others that are angry about them doing it. Do you want to discuss that?
Sure. So what the executive order does, sir, it charges your Department of Justice with investigating instances of flag burning, and then where there's evidence of criminal activity, where prosecution wouldn't fall afoul of the First Amendment, and instructs the Department of Justice to prosecute those who are engaged in these instances of flag burning.
And what the penalty is going to be, if you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail. No early exits, no nothing. You get 1 year in jail. If you burn a flag, you get, and what it does is incite to riot. I hope they use that language, by the way. Did they?
Yeah,
incite to riot. And you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail. You don't get 10 years, you don't get 1 month. You get 1 year in jail, and it goes on your record. And you will see flag burning stopping immediately, just like when I signed the statute and monument.
I don't think that's true.
10 years in jail if you heard
Maybe.
about beautiful monuments. Everybody left town. They were gone. Never had a problem after that. It's pretty amazing. We stopped it. But this is something that's, I don't know, in a certain way, it's equally as important. Some people would say it's more important because the people in this country don't want to see our American flag burned and spit on. And by people that are, in many cases, paid agitators. They're paid by the radical left to do it. You talk to these people, they don't even know, half of them don't even know what they're doing. They say, I don't know, they gave me money to do this. I see the same things that you do. They're bad people. They're trying to destroy our nation. That's not working because I think our nation now is the most respected nation anywhere in the world by far. You saw that with the European leaders on Friday. You saw that with NATO, where they agreed to go from 2% no pay to 5% fully paid up, trillions of dollars paid, where they respect your president to a level that they jokingly call me the president of Europe. They call me the president of Europe, which is an honor. I like Europe, and I like those people. They're good people. They're great leaders. And we've never had a case where 7 plus really 28, essentially 38 countries were represented here the other day. 38 European countries were represented. European and other countries were represented, and it was a great meeting. But your country is respected again. I say it all the time. 1 year ago, our country was dead. Everybody said it. We had a dead country. We were not going to survive. Now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. So it's an honor to be involved. And this group has a lot to do with it right behind me.
So there's his EO. There's him signing the EO.
Behind me have any?
There's him signing the EO. Here is the language of the EO, and this is important. By the authority vested in me, and the reason it's important is because in 1990 there's a case called U.S. v. Eichmann, which basically made, he's correct, there's a 5-4 decision, which says you cannot ban flag burning. It's political. It's free speech, political speech, even burning the American flag. Because in 1989, there was a statute. It was an updated statute that was later codified as 18 U.S.C. 700, which basically said it's a crime to burn a flag. That was struck down in 1990. The 1989 law was struck down in 1990 by the Supreme Court. And they said it was a flag desecration, anti-flag desecration statute that was struck down as the government violating free speech. I covered this topic of flag burning a while ago. I covered it, I want to say roughly a year or so ago, I think. And I got it wrong, and then I corrected myself, and then I got the correction wrong, and I corrected myself. And now I've forgotten precisely where, and I remember I got it wrong. I was like, my gut says it's not okay. I think I went, my gut says it's not okay. Then I found a statute saying it is okay. Then I found statute was overturned because it's not okay. That's my recollection. Where I'm at now is I'm pretty sure you can't just, that where we're at now, the Supreme Court has said that it's legal to burn a flag. I personally disagree with that statute. While I'm all for free speech, I don't think that burning a flag, I think you can make special dispensations to say you can't burn a flag. You can't burn an American flag. Any other flag, yeah. I would be fine with saying you can burn a French flag, an Israeli flag, Hamas flag, a pride flag, any other flag, I would say totally legal to burn it. An American flag, I would say no. And my philosophy on this is fairly logical, which is the reason you have license to burn a flag and to engage in free speech is because of the principles of this country. The same way I have rules in my chat, because I want to encourage as much free speech as possible. But the rules in my chat, I have 3 rules, which I haven't really had to bring up much recently, because you guys have learned in my chat here, my audience is amazing, both on YouTube and on Rumble. But my 3 rules are: don't be racist, don't violate terms of service, don't spam. And even when people are racist, I'll sort of like give them like a little bit of like I'll give a little slack on that, and I'll sort of be like, you're being racist. I'll sort of like give a heads up on that. The reason that I have those rules is because those rules enable the rest of the people to engage in free speech. If folks are spamming or they're violating terms of service and makes things get shut down over here, then you have nowhere to actually engage in the free speech that you can in my chat here. And I love my chat. So I need to have these rules in order to protect the chat. You need to have America in order to protect free speech. So someone who's coming out and basically saying we're going to burn the American flag, they're basically saying that they're not entitled to free speech because you're not going to have that free speech anywhere else. So it seems it's so open-minded. My mother would coined, I don't know, she coined the phrase or she just loved using it a lot, rest her soul, which is that some people on the left are so open-minded that their brains have fallen out. It's like, if you're throwing out the bathwater with the baby with the bathwater, and when you're basically saying like, well, we need to have free speech, and these people are the ones who are basically saying F America. That's the reason you're burning an American flag. Well, if they're saying F America, why should they be protected by the beautiful freedoms that America provides? You wouldn't have that ability anywhere else to burn the national flag. So that's why I'm like, no. I don't like the idea of people burning the American flag. I think it's gross, disturbing, disgusting. It's a short-sighted, selfish activity where you show complete lack of appreciation for the blessings to the world that exist because of this country. You're likely an entitled jackass. And it's designed to... Trump is correct in that it's designed to basically excite the crowd. I'm like, yeah, we're going to take down America. F America. It's like, if your attitude is F America, I don't want you here anyway. If that's your whole attitude is F America, I don't want you here. Go find someplace else. So it's not the type of speech that I'm thinking we need to protect. I don't find that to be the case, that this is speech we need to protect. And my recollection is that while all of this I expressed to you is my opinion, that's my opinion about what the law should be. That doesn't mean that's what the law is, because my understanding of the law is that U.S. v. Eichmann, which is a 1990 Supreme Court's decision, has prohibited the government from stopping people from flag burning, and that you are allowed to burn an American flag here in America. That's my understanding. Don't quote me if you get arrested for it. Certainly not in the wake of the CEO. But that's what I think that the law of the land is, at least coming into today. Now let's see his EO and the language here and whether he managed to circumvent it. So he wrote, Section 1, our great American flag is the most sacred and cherished symbol of the United States of America, and American freedom, integrity, and strength. Over nearly 2.5 centuries, many thousands of American patriots have fought, bled, and died to keep the stars and stripes waving proudly. American flag is a special symbol in our national life that should unite and represent all Americans of every background and walk of life. Desecrating it is uniquely offensive and provocative. It is a statement of contempt, hostility, and violence against our nation. Clearest possible expression of opposition to the political union that preserves our rights, liberty, and security. This is pretty much singing what I was just saying. Burning this representation of America may incite violence and riot. I would have changed that to often, if you want to try and make this a little stronger. Incite violence and riot. American flag burning is also used by groups of foreign nationals as a calculated act to intimidate and threaten violence against Americans because of their nationality and place of birth. Notwithstanding the Supreme Court's rulings of the First Amendment protections, the court has never held the American flag desecration conducted in a manner that is likely to incite imminent lawless action, or that is an action amounting to fighting words is constitutionally protected. See Texas v. Johnson. My administration will act to restore respect and sanctity of the American flag and prosecute those who incite violence or otherwise violate our laws while desecrating this symbol of our country to the fullest extent permissible under any available authority. The Attorney General shall prioritize the enforcement of the fullest extent possible of our nation's criminal and civil laws against acts of flag desecration that violate applicable content-neutral laws while causing harm unrelated to expression. So here we're trying to get this unrelated to expression to try and consistent with the first unrelated expression consistent with the First Amendment. This may include, but is not limited to, violent crimes, hate crimes, illegal discrimination against American citizens, or other violations of American civil rights, or crimes against property and the peace, as well as conspiracies and attempts to violate and aiding and abetting others to violate such laws. Okay, I mean he's trying. There's definitely there's you could tell that his legal team here is very conscious of U.S. v. Eichmann and trying to basically work its way around it. In cases where the Department of Justice or another executive department or agency determines that an instance of American flag desecration may violate an applicable state or local law, such as an open burning restrictions, disorderly conduct laws, or destruction of property laws, the agency shall refer the matter to the appropriate state or local authority for potential action. To the maximum extent permitted by the Constitution, the Attorney General shall vigorously prosecute those who violate our laws in ways that involve desecrating the American flag and may pursue litigation to clarify the scope of the First Amendment exceptions in this area. Now, this is an important paragraph here, which could save this EO from being struck down by the courts. Because when he writes in this EO, to the extent permitted by the Constitution, what he's basically saying is this: I'm only allowing enforcement to the extent permitted by law. So this is a shrewd way of writing this EO, because now you have to imagine someone comes. Let's say the way this would get before the Supreme Court is one of two ways. You would have the ACLU or some other free speech organization, or more likely a consortium of various free speech enterprises who would all band together and say, we stand up for free speech and we think that this EO is unconstitutional and we want to fight against it. They'd probably have standing. They may or may not. In case they don't, in an ideal setting, they would have someone who's actually been charged with violating the law for burning a flag. And then they would basically say, we're all standing together and urging the Supreme Court to overturn this EO. Now this case would work its way up through the ranks. Either the application to dismiss would be granted, and then the government would be appealing, And you can see how this EO is likely to find its way in front of the Supreme Court sometime within the next 6 months to a year. It would not be at all surprising. And when it gets there, whether the circuit court decision is in favor of the defendant who has been charged, or the petitioners who are trying to strike down this EO, or it's been in favor of the U.S. government in defending this EO, what they are going to have to, what the Supreme Court is going to have to look at in part is going to be this section right here and say, should we strike down this EO altogether? Or should we say the way it's been carried out with this individual is unconstitutional? By writing it this way, to the maximum extent permitted by the Constitution, the EO is self-restricting. It's saying we're not going to just apply this all over the place and just ignore the Supreme Court. No, 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 no. We're going to follow it while still we're going to be very mindful of it while still applying it in any areas that are allowable under the Constitution, i.e. Constitution as interpreted by the Supreme Court in U.S. v. Eichmann. So we're following U.S. v. Eichmann. That's what they're saying when they're saying to the maximum extent permitted by the Constitution, that we are following that case, that Supreme Court decision, which prohibits punishment of flag burning, but has certain carve-outs. And that way, even if they overstep the line with a particular defendant, they're putting the Supreme Court in a position to say, well, the way they applied this EO with Mr. Johnson over here may have violated the Constitution and you can't charge him, but we're not striking down this EO altogether as being an illegal Constitution or an illegal EO. We're not going to strike down this EO altogether as being illegally violative of the Constitution because it expressly directs that they're only going to be enforcing this EO to the maximum extent permitted by the Constitution. So instead of them saying what Trump wrote here was unconstitutional, they're putting the Supreme Court in position to say how the FBI and the DOJ implemented this EO in this particular example violates the Constitution. But this, as written, is completely legal and cannot be struck down. So that's why I think that this particular paragraph here is essential towards helping preserve the legal viability of the EO by basically saying you can't just knock it out altogether. You might be able to knock it out with individuals A, B, C, D, and E who it gets applied to, but you can't just knock it out because some ACLU guy comes in here and says, I don't like this. You're restricting free speech. They say back to the ACLU, what do you mean? It's not restricting. We're only doing it to the maximum extent permitted by the Constitution. It's a way of knocking out all these different free speech agencies from being able to come in as petitioners because be like, how could this EO be violating the Constitution when it's only by its own terms allowed to be applied to the maximum extent permitted by the Constitution? And it gives the government a really strong footing to defend this EO. Secretary of State, Attorney General, and Secretary of Homeland Security acting within their respective authorities shall deny, prohibit, terminate, revoke visas, residence permits, naturalization proceedings, and other immigration benefits, or seek removal from the United States pursuant to federal law, including 8 U.S.C. 1182, 8 U.S.C. 1424, 1427, 1451, subsection C, 1227A, whenever there's been appropriate determination that a foreign nationals have engaged in American flag desecration activity. And this is also an area where he has broad latitude. So it could be like, I can revoke your visa for any reason possible, any reason I want. If any provision is order the application of any provision to any person or circumstance held to be invalid, the remainder of this order and application of its provisions to any other person or circumstance shall not be affected thereby. Nothing in this order should be construed to impair or otherwise affect the authority granted by law to an executive department or agency or head thereof, or the director of the Office of Management and Budget related to budgetary, administrative, legislative proposals. Their functions and the order shall be implemented consistent with applicable law and subject to availability of appropriations. This order is not intended to and does not create any right or benefit. And this is all your boilerplate language that they have at the end. So I think it's well drafted, and I think they did a good job of trying to buttress this EO from being knocked out in one fell swoop, particularly with that section 2C, saying to the maximum extent permitted by the Constitution, the AG shall vigorously prosecute. It's a very wise thing here. The assumption that he puts in here in their purpose, that every time it incites, I think that you're opening up a Pandora's box. Be like, how do you know that's true? And does he have to do any sort of due diligence to establish that that's true? Or can we just assume that he's right on that? Does he have to have some sort of support for it? And if so, what type of support does he have? That was the whole analysis, that type of analysis that Justice Breyer got into when he sent the National Guard in to help ICE agents in California. With that, let's hear from Allegan News. I oppose Trump's EO on flag burning. It resembles unconstitutional hate speech laws. To make it constitutional, it should be linked to other crimes. For instance, burning, and let me give you the bell again also. Burning a flag you don't own can result in increased criminal penalties. Look, I understand why you would be saying that. I get that. I think I walked through why I disagree with you on this. I don't think that you or I or anyone is really inhibited by, I don't think your free speech is inhibited by restricting you from burning the flag. And I think it's meant to incite. It's meant to, it's the language of the weak designed to create an emotional response from the weak-minded. Free speech, to me, the objective of free speech, aside from everything I explained at the outset of this conversation, where I was looking at this as something that that the person who's burning a flag has basically, the statement they make is I should not have free speech. So I think that person is in a poor position to say that my purpose in free speech is to destroy free speech rights or to upend free speech rights that all Americans have. Because that's essentially what they're calling for. Whether they know it or not, whether the cheering audience knows it or not, that is essentially what they're calling for. So that's the same thing like someone, who'd be spamming my chat. It's like, they're engaging in free speech. But when they're engaging in free speech, they're not really speaking. Or they're destroying the very channel, the very medium that's enabling them to speak. So it's almost like they're climbing up a ladder and then pulling the ladder away from everyone else. Because if the objectives are met of someone who's burning a flag, well, the United States would be overthrown and destroyed. And if that happens, then there is no more free speech. So that's climbing up a ladder, getting to the top, and then yanking away from everyone else. My action of climbing the ladder, the purpose will be to destroy the ladder I'm using to climb up here. To me, that's not free speech that we should be we have any interest whatsoever in protecting. We're looking to just destroy the ladder. And the other thing is, I think it's utterly disgraceful to veterans. It's utterly disgraceful to family members of those who died protecting our freedoms. It is an utter spit in their face. Like, what kind of complete total clown jackass do you have to be that insensitive? You're basically making a statement, a political statement, that all the efforts of people who bravely sacrificed themselves or even risked sacrificing themselves, watched their brothers die on the field of battle, that was in vain. Because everything this country stands for should be destroyed, which is what burning the flag is designed to represent. That kind of jackassery, I don't think is speech that requires our protection. I don't think it merits our protection. You can be critical as much as you want of our government. You can be critical as much as you want as the way our country is being run. But to say that the entire country, to advocate for revolution, essentially, which is what, to me, burning the flag is. That's basically saying you want to pull the plug on everything here, and that's not speech that the country itself should be standing up for. Our objective is to heal our problems, not to slaughter everyone here. It doesn't mean overthrow the government. It means to slaughter all Americans. I mean, it has to be one of those. Which of those are forms of freedom of speech that we should be like, we have to protect that? So no, I don't think that. I think that is the, and that's why I say, if someone is burning the flag of any other country, there's 179 countries, 178 of them, burn away. Every country in South America, every country in Asia, Middle East, Africa, Europe, you want to basically go to the United Nations and burn every flag that's flying there? Have at it. Not the American flag. Not that one. Not All Glory. So that's my, yeah, I mean, I think about World War II veterans, and I'm just like, what kind of a-hole do you have to be to like just be that insensitive? So I disagree with you on this, Allegan. Just because if the Supreme Court had voted 5-4 in upholding the flag burning law, we wouldn't. I think most of us wouldn't even think that there was anything wrong with that. It was a very controversial decision in the time. So, but you're free to disagree. Let's review the EO. What does it say? We did. I think you sent that a while ago, though. Burning the flag says more about the actor than whatever cause they're yelling about. Military, I know, don't want this. They fight for freedom. Yeah. If only they protected 2A like they did 1A, we could have all the pew-pews. Seriously. Seriously. I hate flag burning, but I'd rather keep my freedoms. I don't think it's a freedom. I don't think it's a freedom that we need. See, I saw a lot of people who I like, admire, and respect. They feel like you over here, which is, I take Allegan News to be like on the same page as you. And that's why I was laying out why I think that this is not a speech. I don't feel like we're sacrificing our freedom to speak by doing that. I think that denying flag burning is actually protecting our freedom to speak. The same way I keep spammers out. Well, they're just speaking. They're just speaking. The same way people who violate terms of service, I keep them out. They're just speaking. Well, yeah, I can let them speak, and then there's nothing left here. There's no chat left. So then what? That's people who are basically taking advantage of climbing the ladder of the freedom. I give you a freedom, and then that person turns around and destroys freedoms for everyone else. That's what the flag burning is to me. I don't see the distinction. My mom said economics? What? If the flag is your property and you cannot destroy it, do you really own it? Ownership requires that I can buy it, I can sell it, and I can destroy it. I don't think so. So here's what I would tell you on that. Most people look at America as an idea. So, I mean, the reason the flag has significance is because the idea behind what America is. So you're looking at the actual threads and dyes that are in that flag. But the only reason it has value is because of the idea that it's representing. So, yeah, just because you buy a flag doesn't mean that you have the right to basically stand for imperiling the ideas that are imbued in the flag that you're waving. There's plenty of fabric and inks and dyes in any flag, but they're not treated. No one thinks of them as being the same thing. So you're getting a very literal. You're giving a very literal definition of ownership, and it's almost circumventing the entire conversation. So doing. It's a shame that this has to even be an EO. Meanwhile, if you burn a pride flag, it's considered a hate crime. Yeah. How is that? How is that? Now, I am positive that everyone here in my audience who's been defending the idea of flag burning, they would say, "Oh, that's terrible too." So I know that Allegan would be like, and Anne, who both so far seem to be standing up for the right to burn a flag, and I respect both of them madly. I mean, they're both very intelligent people who, I interact with them, several times a week, each of them. Allegan usually several times a night. So I respect their intellect and their perspectives on things. I just disagree with them on this one. But I'm fairly positive that both of them, and probably many people who might be saying we should be allowed to burn the American flag, they would agree that you should be allowed to burn a pride flag. So you're not really refuting them. If anything, what Anthony is really doing here is he's calling out the hypocrisy of the left, who's all in favor of burning American flags and neither Anne or Allegan are coming from a leftist perspective. They're just coming from a freedoms perspectives. Missed this earlier. Century Bro, my brother. God bless you, my friend. Joe, surprise tab audio. Are you able to mute all tabs except for the tab you're currently working with, then unmute each tab as you move through the show? Right-click on the current tab, select mute all other tabs. Might have to mute individually. So I usually will have, this is a creative solution. Right now I have in Chrome 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 windows. Those 12 windows each have, some have like only one tab and some have a dozen tabs. So that's why when I'm freaking out like that, I'm basically trying to find, and one or two of them may even have like 20 tabs. For the ones that like, I'll usually tend to have, depending on the show, I'll often have like my main show thing. I'll have all my different topics and I'll just line up my tabs. Like I'll lump together like 7 tabs on this topic and 4 tabs on this topic and 9 tabs on that topic. And there'll be like 20 tabs there. And they'll be like, okay, this other topic I want to keep separate. So I'll make another window and have 6 tabs for that. And then when that audio thing will just start like, just start blaring on me. Plus, I have some other windows where it's like, okay, this is something I'm working on a project and I don't want to lose this and I'm terrified I'm going to lose it. So I'll sort of like leave those tabs there. And when I'm building a show, I'll pop out of there and make another window. There's a reason I have as many tabs as I do. I kind of like your idea. Question of how I can mute all tabs. Can I mute sites? I don't see where. That's interesting. I just found something here. You just inspired me. I don't even know what I'm looking at here. Look at this. You inspired me now. Look at this. Thank you so much for your generous super chat. You awesome, Century. Look at you inspire me. I'm just going to pause from the flag topic for 1 second. When I click on this thing here, not that, this one. So I have these different audio things. These are from different windows. So I play. I don't know what happens if I press play. Live caption settings. I'm gonna have to try playing around with this later on. I'm a little confused, but perhaps I should try to sort all that stuff out. Burning a flag doesn't equate to free speech. Expression, maybe, but it's not necessarily speech. It also involves private property rights. If you can't destroy it, you own that flag. So you're saying it's not free speech, it's expression. You're only... I would say, here's an interesting thought. When you're raising this question, let's imagine someone goes into his backyard and burns an American flag. So it's not as a public statement, but it's a matter of like he just wants to burn an American flag, like to sort of get that off his chest. I think that is something that Trump basically would say that's not incitement, and that under his EO would be okay. And that would be consistent with the, someone, and even if he films a video of it and uploads that video of his expression. He basically goes over and says, I'm about to burn an American flag. And he records himself doing this, and he sets it on fire and, starts screaming F America. Now, I personally think that the Supreme Court should say, no, that's not okay. But his EO wouldn't do anything to prohibit that. So perhaps his EO will withstand scrutiny. Unless you can breathe fire, burning a flag is not free speech. Nice. What about your channel locals? We chop liver? Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. You're not chop liver. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I forgot to check over there. I was bouncing around and I forgot to check over on locals. I'm so sorry, JH. He sent me a very generous, he sent me a couple of super chats, and one of them was very generous, $50 tip. Let's see what we got here. I'm sorry, brother. Here he is. Did you know there's a Hebrew word for Mexican? You people think of everything. I'm impressed. The Hebrew word is Mexican. It's Mexicani, actually. This is pronounced Mexicani. Yeah. Pronounced Mexicani for a male and Mexicanis for a female. The Hebrew Mexico is Mexico. Yes, very creative. Very creative. When it comes to especially language, words that are like less than like 2,000 years old, certainly less than 300 years old. Anything that came about within the past 300 years, they tend to just, put the thing in as close to Hebrew letters as possible. Although America, you know how they say United States in America? They call United States Artsot Habrit. Artsot Habrit. Although Americans would say Artsos Habris. Artsot Habris. That's how we'd say Artsot Habris, which means the land of the covenants. The land actually means the lands. Artsot means lands. Lands of the covenants. So, yeah. That's a pretty good name. Also, how did Moses know there'd be Mexicans? I watched it. He never mentioned them. Please explain. That's why there's not really a word. I don't know how they came up with Artsot Bris for United States. So, but I guess it's supposed to. You would think they would use. They would say like Biyachad is like together, like for united, and something for states. I don't know. A lot of times they'll just try to find ways to describe what it is. So, yeah. Thank you for the generous super chat, brother. Allegan is saying, they went to the Civil Rights Act. It's a crime because it intimidates people based on their national origins, similar to laws about burning crosses. Those laws are like unconstitutional. This reminds me of hate speech laws. They went to the Civil Rights Act. It is a crime because it intimidates people based on their national origin, similar to laws about burning crosses. Those laws are likely unconstitutional. This reminds me of hate speech laws. It did seem when we're looking at that, where were we? At this EO. I agree with you that this language over here of American flag is a special symbol in national life, should unite, represent, desecrating is uniquely offensive and provocative. This is exactly what Allegan's talking about here when he says that this is That's the kind of thing you would say with hate speech type of things. It's a statement of contempt, hostility, and violence against our nation, clear as possible expression of opposition to political union that preserves our rights, liberty, and security. So it does have a civil rights type of feel in the precursor here. But I'm not sure that this is going to stand scrutiny, but I think it has a chance. And I think that if it does do it, it's going to be because of this line right here. I think that line here really helps salvage us from being shot to pieces by the Supreme Court. Without it, I think it would be. Without it, I think it would be shot down. But I think that might help save it. The U.S. Army Cold War. This U.S. Army Cold War veteran says we start burning the Quran under free speech, First Amendment protection if they keep it legal to burn our flag. I feel you. I feel you. It's a matter of respect. I feel you. Free speech many times is meant to invoke a response. Why else should I speak if I did not want a response? Right, but my point is the response is rooting for the overthrow of free speech. So I know you're critiquing that. You're likely critiquing that I referenced how it's designed to incite the unthinking. But the point of free speech is really to exchange ideas. To exchange ideas and have an even exchange of ideas. You're not having an even exchange of ideas if you're trying to root exclusively on emotion. You're not trying to create something. You're not trying to further enhance the greater understanding of things. You're actually trying to strip away understandings and go to raw emotion. So while it's technically political speech, I think it's really a more of an emotional type of tactic than it is speech. Burning cross, star, Quran will always be insult to those religions and likely be cause of violent response. Should we also ban that? No, I'll tell you something. I don't. That's why I was asking the question. That's why I was asking the question with respect to, has he done any research on this to know that burning flags has actually led to greater incitement of violence? Like, can he point to 10 videos where like that happened and that led to violence? Or even 3. The flag symbolizes who we are as Americans. There are degrees to what is American Constitution, White House, or Washington, D.C. A flag is not America. I can hear an argument that a flag is more American than any of those things. Aside from the Constitution. Constitution, you're going to have a hard time beating. But the flag technically predates the Constitution, I think. Betsy Ross, I think, I think she weaved Stars and Stripes before there was a Constitution. I'm not sure about the origin of the flag as far as when it happened, but I'm fairly certain. So, in White House in Washington, D.C., yeah, I think definitely the flag is more American than those. Now, you can say it's not like an attack, a physical attack that's, harming anyone. A lot of people will point to the resilience of the American flag. And I think that's the perspective of your classic liberal would basically will treat the flag and the burning of the flag almost as the flag sacrificing itself. They'll personify the flag as if the flag is willing to sacrifice itself for your free speech. Almost like giving it a messianic type of perspective. That it's like, here's the flag giving itself up for your free speech. That's how they'll sort of view it. I've heard it expressed that way. Like the noblest thing that the American flag can do is to allow itself to burn. which I can understand that take. I can understand it. I still disagree with it. I can recognize that it has a certain Christian element to it. And this country is definitely rooted in Christian ideology. So, to the extent it has that Christian type of perspective of basically, the putting the flag on its own cross and willingly sacrificing itself for the peoples under its domain, I can understand that perspective, from a Christian religious perspective. I'm curious, those of you who are Christians, like your thoughts as far as that argument. I'm not saying that's an argument I agree with. I'm simply saying I understand that argument. I still think it's wrong because, the flag is not a person. The flag can't make that choice. And the flag is, you're basically asking every American to make that sacrifice because they're an American. And I don't think that's fair. So in that sense, it's almost like it's a compulsory tax on the civil liberties of every American when you burn a flag. And, even if you believe that Jesus died for your sins, that doesn't mean, if that's your perspective, you certainly are taking the perspective that he accepted that upon himself, in stark contrast from the flag or Americans accepting that upon themselves. If someone wants to give charity, be charitable, be self-sacrificing. That's their individual choice on themselves. But that's very different than forcing someone to be charitable, like we're doing with the American flag, in having Americans say, I'm willing to accept the burden of watching my flag burn. That's not charity anymore. That's thievery. When someone donates sacrifice, that's charity. When we force charity out of someone, that's thievery. Very deep conversation tonight, huh? You guys, I'd forgotten that whole claim I'd heard before. I just haven't heard that claim in decades. The flag is a symbol. Destroying the symbol does not destroy the idea. That's true. That's true. Actually, I don't think burning pride flags should be illegal. Hate speech laws are unconstitutional as well. I know you don't. I was saying you wouldn't. I was saying you would think that should be it should be completely legal. You would say that it should be completely, from everything I've been reading so far, that you would say it should be completely legal to burn any flag. American flag, pride flag, any country's flag, whatever. I recognize the consistency of your position. Trump EOs seem to imply that flag burning is linked to another crime. You can charge it fully. This is constitutional because it's not pure speech. If you don't own a flag and burn it, charge them. But so it belongs to someone else who's in the crowd. Or if they bring their own flag, is it going to make it any better for the problems that he's concerned with? There's a Chrome extension called Session Buddy. This Century Bros here to help me for my Session Buddy, where you can save groups of session windows and reopen them as you please. Would that work with a ChatGPT conversation I'm having? I gotta try that. Session Buddy. No. Let's see if I can find that extension. All right, I got it. Thank you, brother. Not respect, but of culture. This is regarding something I said roughly 7 minutes ago. Westboro Baptist Church, fly the flag upside down. I don't know if you guys were paying close attention to my thumbnails. I don't know if anyone ever pays close attention to my thumbnails, but I do try to put some thought into it. Although recently I've turned more to ChatGPT to generate my thumbnails. But particularly when I was making them, I had During the Biden administration, I had American flag upside down as my background. Similar, that symbolizes distress. So if someone wants to have a flag upside down during the Trump administration because they're, deranged by anything with, light colored hair, I have no problem with that. That's their free speech. That's a proper expression of free speech. When Hong Kong protested in 15 months, we'll give you the bell here. When Hong Kong protested in 2019-2020 for their independence from CCP, they used the U.S. flag as one of their calls for freedom. Yeah, because that's how people look at it. That's how people look at it, which is why that's why the notion of burning a flag is basically saying, yeah, let's get rid of our freedoms. That's what it's saying. That's why I think it's utterly hypocritical to be burning it. It's like you're not even understanding what you're doing. I gotta check local. Vrooman is telling me to check locals again. And there I am. I was confused about this. I didn't understand how burning the flag was speech, but the First Amendment protects freedom of expression. So flag burning is considered expression of your idea. That's protected. My glasses aren't working this evening, so my typing will be terrible. I just wanted to say that at the beginning of this conversation. Cool. Yeah, it is freedom of expression. It is a form of expression that we refer to as speech, even though it's not speech. Yeah, it is a form of expression. That's true. When I took the bar exam, the 200 questions on the multi-state day, which I rocked. One of the questions that I was sitting there and my brain was melting, was police officer showed up at John McCaffrey's house and asked him to turn over the blue dress that his wife was wearing when she murdered her neighbor one day earlier. John goes upstairs and handed the police officer the dress. And the question is, the dress is admissible and the statement is admissible. Neither the dress nor the statement are admissible. The dress is admissible. The statement's not admissible. The statement's admissible. The dress is not admissible. And I seriously am sitting there and my brain is exhausted. And I was just like, what freaking statement? What is the statement? I don't see a statement here. Now, when I was going home, I was like, oh, they meant the statement the cop made. But when I was sitting there on a test, I was like, they mean the verbal act of getting the dress? Is that what they're talking about? Like that's a verbal act that when you go and get the dress, that's making a statement that this is a dress that she wore last night? So is the verbal act, is that the statement? Is it the cop? Is it what he's saying? Which would be the statement? I was sitting there racking my brain, just so torn up. But yeah, there's a concept of a verbal act, which is if you do something that's sort of almost becomes a statement by handing the cop the dress. It's almost like it's a statement from John that was a dress that his wife was wearing. So yeah, there is a concept that's a form of speech. Your actions can be a form of speech, and so too burning a flag is a form of speech, at least according to the Supreme Court, a protected form of speech. Whew. I knew this was going to be a little bit of a deep topic here, but okay. I think I give you my perspective on it, but I'd love to get your thoughts on it. Drop a comment down below. Do you think we should allow free speech? Do you think it makes sense to say that the flag sacrifices itself for our free speech, is okay with it? Or you think that that's asking something of people? in a way that, or compelling people to accept it. It's not the flag alone who's suffering, but the people who see it, who get offended by it. I do think it has a Christian element to it. That perspective has a Christian element to it, of self-sacrifice. Okay, so I got that out of the way. We covered that story. I'm already 2 hours in, and I have 2 more massive topics to cover. All right, we're going to keep going. Let's keep going, because I like you guys. What I actually care about getting your feedback on, because I think this is also a very interesting topic. A very interesting topic that I wanted to hit you all on. Was Trump relabeling the Department of Defense to the Department of War? Here's a clip of him making that point.
Incredible with the, as I call it, the Department of War. You know, we call it the Department of Defense, but between us, I think we're going to change the name. You want to know the truth? I think we're going to have some information on that maybe soon. But I think because, you know, Department of Defense, we won the World War I, World War II. It was called the Department of War. And to me, that's really what it is. It's defense is a part of that. But I have a feeling we're going to be changing. I'm talking to the people. Everybody likes that. We had an unbelievable history of victory. Incredible with the.
So that I was making the left get all freaky like this jackass here. Hey, MAGA, I thought this guy was supposed to be a peace president. WTF is this Department of War? BS. You voted for more wars? Stupid man. Stupid man. Yeah. So he wants to go with Department of War. Yeah, that wasn't the only statement he made about it. But as reported by The Guardian, Donald Trump just said for the 3rd time today that he plans to rebrand the Department of Defense by returning to the pre-1947 name, the Department of War. President, whose pre-politics business career was largely focused on marketing, first raised the idea on Monday morning while signing executive orders in the Oval Office with his Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth standing behind him. So, Pete, you start off by saying Department of Defense, and somehow it didn't sound good to me. You know, it didn't sound good. Defense. What are we, defense? Why are we defense? So it used to be called Department of War, and it had a stronger sound, the president said. He then told the handful of officials lined up behind him, namely J.D. Vance, Vice President Pam Bondi, Attorney General Kirstie Noem, Homeland Security Secretary Stephen Miller, the Deputy Chief of Staff Terry Colin, head of the DEA, and Hegseth, if you people want to stand behind me, if you want a little vote, you want to change it back to what it was when we used to win wars all the time, that's okay with me. Later, while taking questions alongside the president of South Korea, Lee Jae-myung, Trump again raised the idea out of the blue.
Nothing to do with your country, but
Let's hear him.
it's something that I think you're going to be hearing about or seeing about over the next couple of weeks. Probably that change is going to be made over the next week or so.
Okay, so that's coming over the next week or so. 3rd time he raised during a meeting Monday afternoon. Yeah, so sorry about the loud volume there, but Trump raised. So asked by a reporter how he plans to rename the Defense Department of War, since that would require an act of Congress, Trump said, "We're just going to do it. I'm sure Congress will go along if we need that. I don't even think we need that. It just seems to me like just much more appropriate. The other is defense is too defensive. I don't want to be defensive. We want to be offensive too if we have to be. So it just sounded better to me. It just sounded to me better. So I want to ask you guys, what do you think about that? Do you like the idea? This is the next poll. We got to do a poll on this. This is definitely a poll. Definitely a poll. Yeah, why did I lose that? Damn it. Yeah. Okay. Here's starting a poll. Okay. Wants to change. Back to Department of War. Good idea. Bad idea. No opinion. So you guys like the idea of changing to the back to the pre-1947 name of Department of War? Elegant saying the Palestine protests in DC Union Station removed and burned the flag since they didn't own it. They should be punished for flag burning. Lincoln locals, I think Trump EO was for this. Oh, okay. So you're saying it's a public flag. Trump is right. The Coast Guard, National Guard, and Reserve should be part of the Department of Defense, while the active military should be part of the Department of War. No rename because it won't exist. The poll is up. You should see the poll there. Yeah. It's a very Trump type of thing to be like making us think about the name ever since, like, you know, he came in like day one practically with Gulf of America. Department of War. It's definitely not a vote for the veterans. Why not? I like it. For peace, prosperity, and good times. Ooh, I like that. I like that. The Department of FAFO. I like that. See, my take on this is I think I kind of, to me, that's kind of like the Michael Madsen, John Bolton thing, where it's like if we have a Department of War and our enemies hear that, like, you know, this action they've taken has stirred a meeting of the American Department of War. That sounds a heck of a lot scarier than it stirred a conversation in the Department of Defense. Now, they're not supposed to be knowing what conversations are happening in the Department of Defense or Department of War, however you label it. That's all classified stuff. But if Trump starts talking about, you know, having a meeting with the Department of War about what's going on in Yemen, that sounds way more intimidating to Yemen than saying, I'm going to have a meeting with the Department of Defense. It definitely does. You can't deny it. In a sense, it's almost like it's a way of, it's not saying that he wants to go to war, but giving it that label has a much more intimidating presence when he's, you know, negotiating with a hostile entity, you know, and he decides to share something. He's like, you know, according to the Department of War, they're under the impression that you're engaging in illegal conduct on this international border over here. That sounds a lot worse than according to our Department of Defense. I can actually see how this is something that used properly is a way of basically swinging a bigger stick. It's the Teddy Roosevelt, tread softly and carry a big stick. That's what this is. And I think that's how Trump's policy, foreign policies in general, seem to go. Is tread carefully while carrying a big stick. Tread softly while carrying a big stick. Not carefully, softly. Tread softly and carry a big stick. So it's, and I think that going back to that name is a way of re-infusing on the international specter that America is the big stick. So in that sense, I really like it a lot. I think it actually has more significance than people might appreciate, because I do think that the nature of where the conversations would come up about the activities of the Department of Defense, where it may come up when he's negotiating with respect to international affairs with various foreign dignitaries. Just the notion that, imagine he's speaking to someone in a foreign language and it gets translated in that foreign language into, a Department of Defense or a Department of War. It's a way bigger stick. Everyone knows it. The objection to changing it to that is, oh, this is a sign that we're looking to go to war. Yeah, that's what you want our enemies, our potential enemies, to be thinking about. Department of War is not relevant to an ally, right? I mean, we can joke around about Canada all we want. We're never going to war with Canada. We changed the Department of Defense, Department of War. It's not having an impact on Canada. We're not going to war with Europe. It's not having an impact on our allies. Department of War is something that's designed to intimidate those entities who are hostile to the United States, the ones who the Department of War would be engaging in. So I do think that Department of Defense is a more neutered term. And ironically, ever since we have had a Department of Defense, we've actually been much more hostile and much more engaged on the international battles than when we had a Department of War. And perhaps that's part of the reason, because there's no one out there waving a big stick, or at least implicitly neutering their own big stick by referring to it as Department of Defense. So I actually think it's a story that's probably not going to get a little coverage, but I actually think it's probably a significant thing. It has potential to be significant in ways that you and I would not think of, because we're not engaged in conversations in the nature that our executive branch, particularly Trump and the Secretary of State, Rubio, would be engaged in. So in that sense, I think that if you actually put yourself in their shoes, I think you can understand how that's just a more intimidating way of being able to express yourself without saying something aggressive. You don't want to have to talk aggressively. You just want to be able to talk calmly and rationally, while still, and without trying to say, I'm going to say something threatening, while still having the effect of threatening. Because if you just go out there and you start saying, I'm going to go get the Department of War, that's, I'm going to, you might think of Department of Defense, but it's Department of, we know our wars, baby. No, it's like, okay, so look, if you want us to, our Department of War, to put together a plan for how we should handle this situation, that sounds very different than if you want our Department of Defense to strategize this. I think it's actually potentially significant in ways that are incalculable. It has a vibe to it that's got that intimidating presence that you cannot quantify. So I really actually like the name change a lot. I think it's high, it could be incredibly significant. Just because I think that the stronger the rest of the world looks at America, the more strength they perceive America to have, the safer the world becomes. Particularly when it's being governed by people who actually care about the welfare of Americans, first and foremost, and the world secondarily, which I put my trust in Trump in that way. Much less so when we're being governed by the likes of a Biden or Obama, that's for sure. So yeah, I like the name on change actually a lot. I'm for it. There we go. It's good to see you, Printer God. He's not around often. I assume that the timing doesn't work for him because I know he's been. This guy is as old school. This guy is as old school as Harvard. He's been as William and Mary. Don't take that the wrong way. Obviously, he's not woke at all. He's awesome, Printer God. But he's one of the early day guys. I'm for it because changing it would require us to change DOD to DOW on every single form and system in the military, which would expose just how many unnecessary forms and systems there are. Indirect audits. Nice. You see, Printer God's he's a thinker. He's like, because then you gotta do that. If you're gonna do this, then that happens. This. I like it. What NFL team only wins with defense only? The 2000 Baltimore Ravens. 1985 Chicago Bears. They had no offense. They had no offense, but their defenses, I think their defenses outscored the points they gave up that year. Gah, it speaks softly. Is that it? You carry a big stick, you'll go far. I like walk. Speak softly and carry a big stick. Speak softly. Okay. You probably I think Erin's right. I think Erin's correct. She's more up on this sort of thing. Duck Fat saying I suggest the Department of FAFO. I like that too. That's really good. That's really, really good. All right. And finally tonight, actually, not finally, two more things. This was hilarious. Apparently, I don't even know what this one was at. I don't know who Winsome is. Who is Winsome? But this white woman, let me find a still frame so you can. Actually, I think I saved a picture of it. I can probably pull a picture that I saved. I'm almost positive I saved the picture. I definitely saved the picture. Here it is. Look at this. Here's your Democrats. Here's your trans supporting Democrats. What are you thinking when you make this sign? What is going through your head? Hey, Winsome. I don't know who Winsome is. If trans can't share your bathroom, then blacks can't share my water. They're so racist. Oh my God, they're so racist. They are so racist. I was going to open the show. I started tonight's show without the typical 60-second clip. I usually try to share something that I find funny at the beginning of the show. If you joined in the last, 2 hours, you would have missed when I started the show that I did not have my typical opening funny thing. And that's because the only thing I had lined up in the chambers there that was actually funny, I was like, I think it's too racist. I think this is really racist. I think it's funny, but it really feels racist. It really feels racist. Now I feel guilty for not sharing. What are you thinking when you do this? What are you thinking? What are you thinking? What does this even mean? Anyway. So I want to share with you. Oh my God. Now, when a fellow Democrat is upset about this, do they say, hey, what did you write there? That's really kind of racist. Why would you write that? No, that's not what they say, because they don't care about being racist. No, not at all. The critique she got is almost worse than the sign. Check this out. What's bothering him is that people are not taking that the way it's getting negative play. It's getting negative play. You need to take it down because it's getting negative play. People are seeing how freaking racist we are. They don't care about whether it's racist. They just care, how is the public taking it? They're so racist. They're so racist. Oh my God. The most evil people. They're all about virtue signaling. They're all about virtue signaling. Who cares if it is racist? I care whether the public thinks it's racist. It's getting negative play. It's not working. Let's change up our tactics. I love how he's trying to whisper so no one would hear. And what you don't realize, this is the thing, dude. Like, do you not know how cameras work? How video works? Negative. Like, good play? People like it? Oh my God. You can't make this stuff up. You can't. What's wrong with these people? They're so stupid. They're so stupid. It's because their natural inclination. It's like, I'm not even sure what the hell she's trying to. I think if you try to give her the benefit of the doubt that she's like, it's the same thing. You're trying to do the same thing. But she didn't realize that when she said that blacks can't use my water. I don't even know. It's like, I guess the best thing that you can say about this sign, is that she managed to avoid using the word Negro. I guess that would make it worse. I guess there's another variant of that word which would make it worse too. Oh my God. That would be so funny. That'd be so funny. If it actually, just that would make it worse. That would make it much worse. Oh my God. So stupid. I had to share that with you because I thought that was funny. All right. Let's talk about Trump and Chicago. I'm going for 3 hours. You guys have been awesome. You guys have been like very engaged tonight. I got a big crowd here, so I'm gonna. This story's gonna end up taking me another half hour at least. I know, but that's okay because we're having fun. We're having. This is a good night. This is a good night. All right, this is a good show tonight. I'm feeling good about this one.
Washington D.C. continues to escalate, with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth confirming.
Okay, just I'll give you closed captions. If you can't understand, just let me know. Okay. I struggle. This is a very special kind of getup this guy's wearing. Okay.
President Trump's military presence in Washington, D.C. continues to escalate, with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth confirming that National Guard troops deployed in the capital will now be armed and authorized to carry out local law enforcement duties. His justification?
So, what he's saying, in case you don't understand MSNBC talk, is Pete Hegseth is confirming that the National Guard is going to be armed when they're patrolling D.C.
A single post on social media calling the move common sense. And Trump himself is making clear this deployment may not end anytime soon. In fact, he's
It's common sense, not ending anytime soon.
keeping troops in D.C. indefinitely, and even suggested other cities could still be next.
All right, now him I liked here, so we'll go like a little bit slower for him. That was at 2.5 times speed. We'll go a little slower for Trump.
And Trump himself is making clear this deployment may not end anytime soon. In fact, he's floated keeping troops in D.C. indefinitely, and even suggested other cities could soon be next.
I mean, I keep seeing about a 30-day deadline, of which we have 22 days left or something. But if I think we're in great shape here, that's one thing. But if I don't, I'm going to just say it's a national emergency. And if I have a national emergency, I can keep the troops there as long as I want. And when we're
I wasn't aware of that. All right, maybe, perhaps.
ready, we'll go in and we'll straighten out Chicago, just like we did D.C.
We're going to straighten out Chicago next, just like we did D.C.
Chicago is very dangerous. Great place. I built great stuff there. I have the most beautiful building in Chicago, I think. But I hate to see what's happened to Chicago.
So he's bothered by what's going on in Chicago. So you want to see him go into Chicago? Do you want to see him sending federal troops to Chicago? With respect to our poll, Trump wants to change the Department of Defense back to the Department of War. 50% think it's a good idea. 35% have no opinion. 15% say bad idea. Okay. All right. I'm going with that as 85% agree with me. That's how I take it. I think it's a phenomenal idea. At least half of you do. By the time we wrapped up, it says 49, 34, 15. So I don't know. But when I was looking at it, it was 50, 30, 50, 30, 15. Right, 35, whatever. So he's saying, let's go into Chicago because Chicago's a freaking war zone. It doesn't need to be that way. But I am going to put up a poll now. Do you want to see Trump send National Guard to Chicago? Yes or no? Should Trump send National Guard to Chicago? DC was federal zone, so okay, but no, not in Chicago. And then we'll have the National Guard. I always misspell guard. I don't know why. I just have a mental block on it. one word I can never spell. I'm guessing it's UAR, not AUR this time. But I always flip it around. So I'm going to be checking over in the ghetto. 3 options I gave in the YouTube poll was yes, save Chicago. No, don't send National Guard anywhere. Or no, DC was okay, it's federal. But so I'm checking the ghetto, and you can let me know what you think there, as I'm going to be looking for what you guys are saying about that. You're going to hate yourself in the morning. You're going to hate yourself in the morning. Did you notice if you zoom in, she had made corrections to sign, put zoomed image on locals? Let me see what you put on locals. I think she's just an idiot. But the guy who was like telling her wasn't much smarter also. Adrienne Winsome Sears is Lieutenant Governor of Virginia. She's awesome. I wish she'd come to Maryland. Oh, okay. Cool. Now I would assume that anyone who the trans group are mad at is probably good at their job. So, by the way, member for 38 freaking months. That's right. 3 years, you and me, kid. All right, let's check out a little more of this. You're going to see a black woman freaking out about Trump sending troops to Chicago.
Miles Taylor, Kimberly Atkinson, and Paul Butler are back with us. You know, also in that, the president said that he was going to floating using the regular military to tackle crime. He's talking about Chicago, and in it, he says the people in Chicago are screaming for us to come. They're wearing red hats just like this. They're wearing red hats. African-American ladies, beautiful ladies, are saying, please, President Trump, come to Chicago. As the beautiful African-American lady on our panel, Kimberly, I want to go to you first because this isn't about crime, right? If it was about crime, there are actually things that you can do.
So let's start with this. I'm going to tilt it and say it's not about crime. What?
To tamp down crime, right? There are things in the DMV, the Baltimore has done to tamp down crime in his city. And I guess I'm just, what does it say that we...
So let's start with this. It's definitely not about crime. Yeah, sure, there's terrible crime. Yeah, sure, there's much less crime now, but it's definitely not about crime. So let's talk about this ridiculous perspective here that we're going to share with you about what this is about.
You're in a time where the president is just saying, I might send the regular military to come into Washington, D.C. or to go to Chicago. And it doesn't seem like the sirens are going off in the country.
Yeah, so on the legal...
It doesn't, because there's a massive crime problem and he's stopping crime.
Sort of front of this, there is a principle, posse comitatus. There's a law, Posse Comitatus Act, which states that military should not be used in a law enforcement capacity against American citizens. The reasons for that ought to be obvious. When you see that sort of militarized control by a government, I've seen that in places like Beijing. That's not what democracy is.
That's what I'm trained for that. My dad was in the military.
Okay. Stop with your stupid democracy. Democracy is not what keeps, is not Posse Comitatus. That's got nothing to do with that. So it's nice you learned a Latin term. That's nothing to do with it. You're just throwing in the word democracy because you think that the 14 people watching your show are going to be all excited to stand up for democracy. But nothing to do with democracy. Everything to do with federalism and the strength of local jurisdiction. Zero to do. It's really because we're a constitutional republic, nothing at all to do with democracy.
It's not their mission. It is not the mission of the military, which I think you've seen a lot of issues here, not just with people not understanding what their mission is, but chain of command. When everybody's claiming to be in control, it actually makes a city less safe. But as you said, it has nothing to do with that. Donald Trump.
What are you basing that on?
Has had a bugaboo about American cities for years. But you can go
that doesn't mean that he's wrong in the criticism about the crime.
All the way back to his time in New York when he claimed, and still won't let go today, that the exonerated 5, the 4 children who were charged in that horrific Central Park attack, he insists that they are guilty, and he insists that they should still be jailed at this point.
That's a lie. He once said that. He actually retracted that.
He put out a full page ad about them wanting to, they should be getting the death penalty. This has been something about.
That was 40 years ago, and everyone thought that they did it. I'm still not sure that they were actually wrong, but I'm pretty sure he retracted that like a decade before he ran.
Donald Trump in American cities, particularly American cities that have large black populations, that he has wanted to assert some control, and he's using DC because he has a little bit more leeway.
Okay, so you can start to understand that this particular woman, why it is that. I mean, I'm not going to say it, but no, I'm not saying it. The one-track brain of everyone's racist against us. Everyone's a racist. Everyone's a racist, which is almost like, I think that the dreadlock hairstyle is it called dreadlock? Is that dreadlock? Or is that, I don't even know what it is. The braided hairstyle is almost like that's someone who's going to basically be bent out of shape about race on everything. I'm going to see everything as a racial issue. That's how it get twisted, that everything is a race issue. Everything. So what if black community is in DC is praising Trump beyond belief? Black women, that's the point that Trump made. Black women coming out screaming, huzzah, praise Donald Trump for finally cleaning up crime. You don't even give a damn about crime in your own communities. You don't. You don't. Because the reality is, you know he's cleaning up in DC. But you're so upset about the fact that Trump is the one who called this that you're like, oh my God, this is Trump being a racist again because he got bugaboo got cities ever since Chicago, the Central Park 5. I mean, what kind of retarded perspective is it to dial back 3.5 decades and basically start saying, oh, this is all about what happened with that jogger in Central Park. Ever since then, he's wanted to take over every. What are you, out of your freaking mind? He wasn't even thinking about running for office for 30 years. And you're just like, yeah, you just want to control American cities. You're an idiot. You're an idiot who's posing as someone who actually is educated, someone who really understands. I don't even think she's old enough to remember the Central Park incident. I'm sure as hell she wasn't living there. She's not living anywhere with the women who are all sitting there singing his praises. The black women who are singing his praises are, oh my God, you're finally cleaning up crime. This woman doesn't care about crime. She doesn't care about anything that's actually happening. She just hates Trump and has a particular angst about that everything is racism. So.
Way because of the federalization of the city in so many ways.
And by the way, I don't think he should be going to Chicago because of that she just said. I do not think he should be going to Chicago. I don't want him sending troops to Chicago. I don't think it's a good idea. I'm not going to praise him for this. As much as I think that it was a good idea for him to take over DC, my position is DC is fine. That's federal. He has authority there. Not really crazy about him flaunting that whole emergency situation type of thing. That's pushing it a little bit, even for me. But I'm fine with him weaponizing them, because how the hell are they supposed to patrol without being weaponized? But you want to tell me that he's going to start going into Illinois without being asked by Pritzker or by Jim Beam, whoever's running that city? Daley? It's not Daley. It's some black idiot. Some black guy who's all up about racism all the time also, who took over for Lightfoot, who's even more of like a commie from what I understand in Chicago.
Congressional control that's here to sort of run a dry run of what he wants to see carried out in American cities. As somebody who is here, who lives here, who is a taxpayer in Washington, D.C., what he could have done if he cared about crime was release more than $1 billion in funding that Congress is still holding up. That can
always throw money at it. Throw money at the problem. Throw money at the problem. We don't have real solutions. We're just going to throw money at the problem. Shut up. This is from the party that has no ideas. No ideas. Throw money at it. Take taxpayer money and throw money at it. Just stop. Just stop. I can't listen to you any longer. Even in fast speed. Even in fast speed. But I will listen to a different whiner. More people on the left crying.
The list of cities where President Trump is considering sending the National Guard. He traded barbs with Maryland Democratic Governor Wes Moore, offering federal help for what the president called out-of-control, crime-ridden Baltimore. Listen.
While the president is spending his time from the Oval Office making jabs and attacks at us, there are people actually on the ground doing the work who know what supports would actually work to continue to bring down crime.
CBS News senior White
One of
House
those supports would be actually reporting the crime as opposed to trying to cover it up.
and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe joins us from the White House with more on this. Ed, good morning to you. So help our viewers understand the legal grounds the president has to deploy the National Guard, but also the political framework here and how Democrats are trying to fight back.
Well, here in Washington, given that it is a federal district and there is explicit law laying out when and how a president can declare emergencies that essentially give him control of the city, he can do what he's doing. There's a 30-day clock that is running that at the end of it will require congressional involvement or the president coming up with some other way to suggest that the troops need to continue to be deployed. And he has said he's going to consult with Congress and try to get them to, in essence, pass some kind of open-ended order to allow this to continue. As for other cities, it usually requires a governor to request National Guard deployment and federal assistance that would result in troops being deployed. We did not see that, remember, in Los Angeles. We did not see that, or there's a good chance we may not see that again if he decides to go to Chicago. But there also were judges that said a president can, if he feels there is an emergency, do this kind of thing, just within certain bounds and whatnot. So we've seen this disagreement break out since he suggested on Friday he's getting serious about deploying into Chicago. The mayor of the Windy City weighed in on Sunday.
What he is proposing at this point would be the most flagrant violation of our Constitution.
I don't forget, but I don't forget. And still, I think we need federalism because I wouldn't like it if Biden was doing it. I wouldn't like it if it was a Democrat president. And this is breaching a new norm, which leads us down the primrose path towards the type of government conduct and overreach that we should never applaud. So no, I don't like this. I don't want him to force governors into taking it under some auspices of, affecting interstate trade or something like that and drug businesses. No, I don't want it. I really don't want him to go forcing his way in there. If they want him in there, that's a different thing. Because that now is the state. We have to respect state boundaries, state enforcement of local law. And just because it's interstate law, I don't like it. It's running. It's a perilous path that we will deeply regret. When suddenly we start seeing national. Okay, here, just want you to just picture this. Okay, all right. Today you're talking, and I understand why you're saying what you're saying, and I also understand the notion of I like someone who's going to implement safety in a healthy and security in a healthy way. And while I may trust Donald Trump would do that, perhaps his successor, I may trust in doing that. I don't want to see our country devolve into something that's an authority that the president has, that they can basically ignore what the obvious federal constitutional limits were designed to be on federal power. We've already brought in federal power way too much. And this would be an even further broadening. And I want you to envision God forbid, a president AOC, who now Trump does this, and he comes up with something like DEA. He says that this is a interstate drug issue. And the next thing that they're going to, and when it's President AOC, a president squad member, or President Newsom, God forbid, all of these would be God forbids, that they're basically saying, well, this is a national problem of there being hate crimes against trans kids by their parents. So I'm going to federalize and send in our military to basically arrest and detain anyone who is standing in the way of their child transitioning. Because you can easily see how that would be the next step. It's not hard to envision. And that's why I'm like, no. We have to fortify local authority and jurisdiction, not weaken it, no matter how much we prefer the leadership of our current federal government over the locals who are running things in places like Illinois, Chicago, or Baltimore, or LA. We have to be savvy enough to recognize that the wheel does turn, seemingly relatively quickly, and that one day there's going to be a federal person, a person in charge of federal government who we're going to despise and is going to be evil and is going to abuse that power. And if we shave off those guardrails in order to empower Trump because we trust him with shaving off guardrails, those guardrails remain shaven off after he's gone, long after he's gone, decades from now. And I can promise you within the next 20 years, we're going to have a president who we despise, who's evil, and who hates America, who in a similar way to Obama or Biden, and probably worse, and more self-destructive. So we need to keep those guardrails sanctimonious and as sentinels guarding us from an evil federal government. As frustrating as it may be when we have someone in the White House who we may admire and trust. Submission of military is not defense against crime. She just proves it should be Department of War. Yeah. Trump should offer help. When they reject offer and cite crime city crime stays high, they'll look like fools. Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm fine with that. Using it as a political bludgeoning hammer, a political hammer to bludgeon them with. Yeah, I agree with that totally. But not to disregard federalism. Chicago area here, how much crime and killings we have to see every weekend, though. It never gets resolved. Yeah, well, elect new leaders. I don't know what to tell you. I know you're powerless. I'm sure you vote against these people all the time. But yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for you. Genuinely, truly sorry for you. But the federal government cannot be your salvation. If the federal government is Chicago's salvation next week, the federal government will be our undoing within the next 20 years. So you have to run a country for the long term, not for like a couple of years. And look at the long-term health of the ramifications of decisions that we make today. Failure to do that is begging for your own destruction. I feel like I gotta check locals because every time I don't check locals, something's happening there. Something new and exciting keeps happening in locals at goodlogic.locals.com. The only reason they didn't send National Guards is because they didn't have to. They were allowed to pick off their enemies at will. Okay. But if they had sent it in, then it comes to the court to stop them. Right? So what's going to happen when Trump goes to court? Either he gets shot down by the court, in which case he looks like a loser, or he gets upheld by the court, in which case we've now shaven off those guardrails. Every time a flag burns, an ICE agent gets to his kit. What? Oh, gets his kit to go after the guy. Yeah, I like it. All right, I got a little bit more on this National Guard in Chicago that I want to share with you here. I'm going to finish this and then we'll hear.
In the 21st century, the city of Chicago does not need a military occupation.
and the governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker.
Oh, it definitely that is the crazy woke mayor of Chicago who's a jackass and a clown, and he sucks and he's terrible. But we have to respect even though he's wrong, and he's dead wrong, 100% wrong. Like he's stupidly and obviously and blatantly wrong. But because that's the position that he's taking, federalism dictates that we follow that.
Also weighed in, saying again that this is unconstitutional, and writing in part, Donald Trump is attempting to manufacture a crisis, politicize.
Well, let's hear from him directly because I have clips of that. This guy looks like he's under some sort of bad charm or something like that. I don't know if he's like he ate something he's allergic to, or he's just not allergic to enough foods. But
we will see the Trump administration in court. We will use every lever at our disposal to protect the people of Illinois and their rights. Finally, to the Trump administration officials who are complicit in this scheme, to the public servants who have forsaken their oath to the Constitution to serve the petty whims of an arrogant little man.
In fairness, next to J.B. Pritzker, every human is a little man. So, seriously. So, yeah, Pritzker is against it. And the governor of Maryland is against going into Baltimore. And frankly, I think that Trump should be like, all right, I offered. You want to you choose to let your cities burn instead? That's on you. That's on you. But I don't want to see him force his way in there. If he forces his way in there, he will end up looking weaker. We have to hope for him to be looking weaker. That's not a position I ever want. I never want to be taking that position. So I really hope that he floated that out there. And this way, when their cities continue to burn, he says, well, this is all on you. I offered to help. You turned me down. This is your stupidity. People are dying because of you. Which is what Allegan News was the point he was making. Let them reject. And then when the city crime stays high, they're the ones who look like idiots. So, and you could say to them, look what happened. Look what could have been. You could have been like DC. We could have saved you like we saved DC. But your jackass of a governor said no. So we're stuck now. We're handcuffed. We follow the rules. And speaking of following the rules, I am now at almost 3 hours. You guys were awesome and amazing tonight, and I really enjoyed the conversation with you. Unfortunately, we did not reach our goal, which means that I am not going to be. Maybe we'll change up the goal a little bit tomorrow. Make it a little easier. We'll see. I'm leaning toward having the draft on Saturday night. Those of you who are engaged in the fantasy football league, that's where I'm leaning toward right now. If you're interested in signing up, it's at goodlogic.locals.com. Goodlogic.locals.com. It's pinned near the top there. Fantasy Football League, Good Logic Fantasy Football League Season 3. It's a $100 admission fee. I urge you to join. We all have a good time there. I'm going to take up to 12 teams maximum, and I hope that. And if we don't fill, I guess we'll go with 10. But I'm looking at having the draft Saturday evening, probably around like 10:30 Eastern time or something. It's going to be a late night, but yeah, I think that's how we're going to have to do it. So until tomorrow, which is Tuesday, I thank you all for joining me. I'm going to remind you that lab meat is definitely not for you. It's meant for Jay Pritzkers of the world, because he's not a he or a him. He's certainly a they, and it's meant for they, them. So I urge you, stay away from the lab meat. Look what it did to Pritzker. Look what it did to him. Do you want that to be you? Don't eat the bugs. Do not eat the bugs. Have a good night, everyone. Oh, wait. Oh, what was this? 2 more came in? No, 1 more came in. Trump can still send the National Guard under the Insurrection Act. I really don't want him to. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't want him to force his way in there. I really don't want that. I mean, he can legally, but my God, I haven't thought about the Insurrection Act. I need to think on that some more. Anyway, God bless. I am going to give you the horn because she's been here for 22 months. So let's, for Kimberly. Have a good night and Godspeed.